Win. So fast. As expected of classmate Natsuki, you are amazing.
In the eyes of Ichigo Orihime, the two salted fish who shouted, and, Big Brother Niyubi. Natsuki only took a few minutes, then he defeated the white-haired kid known as the captain of the 10th Division. And Ichigo, it took a lot of effort last night. Finally defeated that dead-face pervert scientist. A comparison, it even brings out the strength of Natsuki. However, in Natsuki's opinion, Toshiro lost so quickly for several reasons. If roughly classified, he can be roughly divided into 3 points. 1. Lack of information about Natsuki. 2. The weakness of Toshiro's own ability development. 3. Hirinmaru was caught off guard and angry after being used by others, which affected his judgment and performance. Certainly, the first point is inevitable. Natsuki and others just raided Seirei last night. Even if there is a secret Mobile 29 team, it is still impossible to obtain the detailed information of a group of people immediately. The second and third points, this aspect is Toshiro's own factor. In other words, because he became famous at a young age, his life experience does not match this situation. Take fellow captain Byakuya Kuchiki for comparison. Natsuki thinks that even if he uses Senbon Sakura's ability in front of him, he may be surprised, but there will never be anger or panic, etc., which will affect the mood of the battle. Oops, Captain Hitsugaya also failed. Assemble everyone, protect the safety of Captain Hitsugaya from now on. The Shinigami of the 5th Division, he looked at Toshiro who was frozen in the ice with a dazed expression. They don't understand, isn't it the captain's Zanpakuto ability to manipulate ice? How could they be frozen instead? But this does not prevent everyone from carrying out rescue work. Lest you scumbags do something weird to Captain Hitsugaya who's frozen in ice. However, followed Natsuki with a glance over. In an instant, all the Shinigami stood awkwardly in place again, neither going nor not going. Fortunately, Natsuki just greeted the group leader. Kenjiro, thank you for inviting me to breakfast and bringing me here. Next time we meet, I will treat you to dinner. Sound falls, the Shinigami looked at the group leader. At this moment, a subtle change took place in everyone's eyes. You a Shinigami, first, he invited the traveler to have breakfast, and then he helped lead the way. What's the matter? And also, aren't you the first one, the guy who said that Tachibana Brigade Misfortune Ryotsu is not enough, which caused us to be almost cut? And at this moment, feeling the eyes from all around, Kenjiro couldn't help the corner of his mouth twitching. He didn't know this either. Oh, the relationship between the Shinigami is really good. Seeing this scene, the corner of Natsuki's mouth raised a playful smile. But then I looked at Ichigo and Orihime again. Both of them were in poor condition, as if they hadn't rested all night. Rubbing his chin, he reminded the two of them. I'm afraid you two need to find a place to rest quickly. In Natsuki's Ryotsu perception, sensing a strong nearby Ryotsu keeps approaching. Obviously, it was another captain-level character who discovered the battle here and came here. Although he is not afraid, but Ichigo and Orihime are not in great shape. If there is another battle, he can't guarantee that he can guarantee the safety of the two of them. And at this moment, listen to Natsuki's words. The two of them did not hold back, silently nodded and said, "That's right. We really need to find a place to rest." In that case, I'll take you to a good place, just to pick up Long Gui. Okay. Let's listen to you, just so I can rest. After a simple conversation, Ichigo and Orihime leave with Natsuki. This made the Shinigami, who thought there would be a fierce battle, breathe a sigh of relief. But soon, surrounded the frozen Toshiro, anxiously thinking of various means to help Toshiro unfreeze. Quick! Who will fire the Keto of attributes? I can't help it, let me use my body to thaw it. Salt. Whoever has salt on his body, quickly sprinkle some salt on the ice cubes. Fortunately, Natsuki didn't kill him directly. Ice cubes that freeze Toshiro, although difficult to thaw. But under the attempts of all the Shinigami, it started to slowly melt. About half an hour later, it completely melted into ice water, revealing the frozen Toshiro. Ahem. After thawing from ice cubes, Toshiro opened his eyes again, panting heavily. You can actually use my swastika ability. No, this information must be passed on to the other captains. But he suddenly touched the wound on abdomen. As if deliberately avoiding important organs, his abdomen was only penetrating, and his internal organs were intact. This made him even more curious about Natsuki. Travel? No, humans, did you really enter Seireiti just to rescue Rukia? Looking in the direction where the three left, Toshiro froze the abdominal wound, thinking silently in his heart. The other side, Natsuki and his party are running fast. Because his identity was exposed, he was worried that Toshiro would report the situation to the 1st Division, which would cause the old man Yamamoto to send someone to search the 11th Division. So, several people decided to rush to the search before the start. Be the first to pick up Irisawa Tatsuki, who is waiting in the 11th team. Fortunately, maybe the three of them are fast enough. Or maybe Toshiro hasn't reported the situation yet. The three rushed to the 11th team and successfully caught up with Yolong Kui. When Natsuki thanked Kenpachi to leave, but Yachinryu jumped on his shoulder, sat down and said with a smile, "Xiao, your companion has been caught, little tree." The corner of Natsuki's mouth twitched. Unexpectedly, Yachinryu still gave himself a nickname. But thinking about the various weird titles she gave to others in the plot, it seems that Xiao Shushu is not unacceptable. Looking sideways at Yachinryu, he asked, "Who got caught?" "We have 4 companions scattered now. One is tall and strong, one is wearing white clothes, and the other is wretched. By the way, there is a black cat, Wen Yan." Yachinryu shook his head. "Kaido. I don't know. I heard the little bald head say that the intruder was caught." Small bald head. Natsuki heard the nickname. Immediately, he felt that his little tree was actually quite good, at least he could listen to it. But at this very moment, a violent voice suddenly sounded outside. "Asshole. Who is calling disgusting nicknames again? Stand up, be careful, I will hack you to death, hey." Sound falls. The few people in the captain's room subconsciously seemed to be discussing. I saw that the door of the captain's room was pulled open from the outside, and then a head that was bright enough to shine walked in. Do not a Shinigami walks in with a bald head. Madarame Akaku glanced across the room, but when he saw Ichigo's orange head, perhaps he was naturally attracted, and couldn't help but mocked. "Hey. Sea urchin boy. Did you just call out that nickname?" "Ha." Ichigo pointed at himself with one hand, showing a bewildered expression. In no mood, Madarame Akaku thought it was average. He went straight to Ichigo and grabbed his collar, provocatively using the gesture he learned from Rukongai. "Brat. Let me tell you, what is taboo W in the 11th team? Maybe it's because of wearing a deadly costume." Madarame Akaku thought Ichigo was a Shinigami from another team. Never thought. Ichigo is also a character who has a lot of contact with gangsters. I saw Ichigo, who also grabbed Madarame Akaku's collar, sneered with foreheads against each other. "Oh, I see. The so-called taboo is this light bulb that shines when walking in the sun, right?" The voice fell. The veins on Madarame Akaku's head are exposed. Big bulb. This is a more taboo word than little bald head, and then he pushed his head hard and roared. "Boy. I can't spare you. Let's fight. It's just a duel. Who is afraid of whom? Come on, come on." Ichigo is not cowardly either. He pushed his head hard again, responding to Madarame Akaku's invitation to a duel. Aside watching this scene, Natsuki thought of Madarame Akaku. If you followed the plot, Ichigo and Griffin fell from the sky, and they should have encountered a corner. Pity, although it also fell from the sky this time. However, the composition of the team has changed, which resulted in Ichigo not meeting Madarame Akaku as in the plot. However, the two now know each other in such a way. Have to say, this is also a different kind of fate. And at this moment, watching myself talking to Natsuki being interrupted, Yachinryu's expression became gloomy, and he jumped off Natsuki's shoulder, and silently walked to the side of the two who were arguing. Hop lightly. Immediately, the two trembled and said angrily, "Damn. Don't interrupt when people are talking." This moment, the terrifying power of Yachinryu was displayed. Madarame Akaku and Kurosaki Ichigo lay down on the ground and fell into a faint, causing Yuanshu to shake his head without flesh. He also wanted to ask who had been arrested, but he suddenly looked at Yachinryu. While taking something out of his pocket, he asked. Speaking of which, Yachinliu, do you know where our companion is being held? Although it is not known who was caught. But if you ask about the location, you can try to rescue it yourself. During the conversation, Natsuki also took out his hand from his bosom. I saw a small cloth bag in his hand. After untying the rope at the mouth of the bag, you can see that it is full of various kinds of golden flat candies. Wow, it's Jinping Tang. Looking at a bag full of kopita, Yachiryu's eyes shine. This bag of gold flat candy happened to be a thank you gift from Kenjiro to Natsuki when he went to the 5th team for lunch in the morning. Natsuki does not eat sugar, but it can be used to feed Yachinliu. I know it. I heard that he was locked up in the 9th team for interrogation to extract a confession. After receiving a bag full of kopita, Yachinliu threw a handful into his mouth and muttered. But the moment the sound fell, the faces of Natsuki, Longui, and Orihime changed one after another. Yachinliu, you said. Sent to the 9th division for interrogation to extract a confession. Natsuki's face was particularly ugly. In the plot, Sado and Yulong lost to Kyoraku Shunsui and Tusen Kanami respectively, but there is no so-called interrogation to extract confessions. Why now? At the same time, seeing the expressions of several people change. Zaraki Kenpachi, who has been sitting silently by the side, but suddenly stood up, walked in front of Natsuki, and said with a sinister smile. Natsuki, it's just an interrogation to extract a confession. Don't tell me you didn't prepare yourself mentally before coming here. How is it possible? I will naturally be prepared to fail, get it? Natsuki reacted immediately. That's right, I know that the plot is ready to fail. What's more, Ichigo and the others who don't know anything, but still choose to join the Soul Society for rescue. Interrogation or something, I'm afraid they have already prepared for it. Thinking of this, Natsuki's expression gradually became serious, looked at Longui, Orihime, and Ichigo who fainted on the ground, and said solemnly. Although everyone is ready to fail. But as a companion, I will never give up on anyone, so I decided to save people myself. Sound falls, Orihime and Longui looked at each other. Then, looking at Natsuki at the same time, they said in unison, we are going to help too. Seirei 1st Team Captain Meeting Room. An impromptu captain meeting is underway. This time, except for Captain Aizen who was dead in action, all members participated. Even Byakuya Kuchiki and Hitsugaya Toshiro, who were injured, came to this meeting in bandages. And at this moment, Hitsugaya Toshiro and Zaraki Kenpachi are constantly arguing. You harbored travel disasters privately. I don't know his identity, I thought he was the accompanying team doctor. Don't be ridiculous, there is no accompanying team doctor in the 11th team, this is just an excuse. Quiet. Watching this scene, Yamamoto Genryusai opens his eyes. Hit the crutch in your hand hard on the floor. The sudden sound made the noisy meeting room quiet again. Immediately, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni looked at Toshiro and Zaraki Kenpachi, and asked in a voice. According to Captain Hitsugaya, the accompanying team doctor who appeared next to you yesterday, was Natsuki in disguise. Hear the words, Hitsugaya Toshiro subconscious nod, guaranteed road 1000. That's right. I was a little concerned when I saw him yesterday. It's just that I haven't seen its appearance, so I haven't recognized its identity. But I didn't expect that when the other 2 travelers were arrested today, this traveler named Natsuki suddenly intervened. Not only saved the besieged travel disaster. He even admitted his identity and confronted me. But fortunately, it was exposed early, and it didn't cause too much damage to Seirei. Say here, Toshiro had a look of relief on his face. Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni heard the words, looked at Zaraki Kenpachi, his cloudy eyes seemed to be thinking about something, and asked. Captain of the 11th Division Zaraki Kenpachi. Do you have any objections to the report of the 10th Division Captain Hitsugaya Toshiro, or do you need an explanation? So questioning, Zaraki Kenpachi is also hard to explain. It can't be said that it's because I wanted to fight with Natsuki, so I agreed to the other party's request. Think of this, he seemed to see the other party's angry expression, and denied. Unclear, I was seriously injured and fell into a coma. When I woke up and found out that guy Aizen was dead, the subconscious immediately lost. As for the accompanying team doctor, I thought it was arranged by the team, so I didn't seriously observe his identity. Having said this, many captains laughed out loud. Fake, too fake, they had no idea that Zaraki Kenpachi couldn't even tell a lie. Now for the rhetoric. There are all loopholes that can be seen at a glance. After the enemy fights with you, but you said that you didn't recognize the other party's aura, and you took the other party as the accompanying team doctor, and took the other party to see the scene of Aizen's death. This is undoubtedly full of loopholes and exceptionally childish lies. Listening to this lie, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni was slightly silent, raised his eyes to Zaraki Kenpachi, and remained silent for a long time. But now the status quo of the invasion of the brigade. However, he had to save his troops. After a moment of silence, he turned his head and looked at Toshiro again. Other than that, are there any other questions? This look, it's like taking it lightly, or looking after it afterwards. After watching the other captains, they couldn't help but smile jokingly, feeling that Zaraki Kenpachi was lucky. While at the same time, Toshiro sighed helplessly, abandoning the matter and bringing up another purpose of the meeting. Captain, do you remember Grass Crown? At the beginning he awakened Zanpakuto like me. Later, I was forced to fight because the Soul Society forbade two people from having the same Zanpakuto, and in the end I won and was able to save Hiranmaru. Sound falls. Many captains looked over curiously. This matter itself is a secret, and it is basically impossible to spread it to outsiders except for the person involved. Yamamoto Uanryasai narrowed his eyes slightly. Although I don't know why Toshiro asked such a question, but there must be some reason, so he nodded slightly and said, I remember. The results of the ruling that year were sent to my desk. The voice fell, as if thinking of something, his eyes widened. You mean, the Zanpakuto of travel misfortune is also Hiranmaru. But this time, without waiting for Toshiro to answer, Byakuya Kuchiki, standing in the queue, suddenly frowned and denied. Impossible. Natsuki's Zanpakuto, the name should be Yuyu. Even, in front of me, he comprehended the swastika on the spot like rain yoli heaven and earth tribulation. Yamamoto Uanryasai nodded subconsciously. He had faced Natsuki directly, and naturally felt the breath of Zanpakuto from him. It can be said that he has nothing to do with Hiranmaru. This, Toshiro was silent. Natsuki can use his Zanpakuto ability. This, even he himself can't believe it, let alone let others believe it. But Natsuki can use the power of Hiranmaru. Even, he used his own swastika solution, Dagoran Hiranmaru. These 2 points, but I have seen it with my own eyes. Suddenly, listen to the conversation between several people. Kuretsuchi Mayuri, who was standing in the corner, suddenly spoke. Okay. Using the power of others' Zanpakuto, it is theoretically possible. According to my many years of research, each Zanpakuto has its own fluctuations. I think it is not difficult to master this fluctuation and use the corresponding ability of this Zanpakuto. Moment. Everyone was stunned by these words. However, just as everyone was amazed, a figure appeared in the conference room, knelt down on one knee, and reported. There is information about the travel disaster. Squad 9 has been attacked, and half of the guarding Shinigami have been knocked down. Judging by its travel route, its target is for the wanted criminal you captured this morning, Shihouen Yoruichi. After the sound fell, everyone was stunned. It's time to rob the prison again. Shihouen Yoruichi. I thought she was dead long ago. The sinner Shihouen Yoruichi. She is still alive. No, she was captured by the captain. Hearing the information reported by the visitor, the captains were all dumbfounded and looked at the person with disbelief. This is a man dressed in white haori, dressed like a British nobleman. Chojiro Sasaki, the right-hand man who has assisted the captain for more than 2,000 years. In his capacity, it is impossible to report the uncertain information. That is to say, it's true to travel to prison by disaster. The captain captured Shihouen Yoruichi too, for real. Kyoraku Shunsui and Jashiro Yukataki subconsciously glanced at each other, and there was a glint of misfortune in their eyes. Messed up. I'm afraid this is going to be a complete mess. There was a disaster in the past, and now Shihouen Yoruichi is arrested. Seirei is going to be completely messed up.
Who is Shihouen Yoruichi? That is the elder sister of the previous Shihouen family patriarch and the current Shihouen family patriarch.
Even if defected, it can't change the former noble status of the other party. Now he was captured by Yamamoto. Captain, it may be difficult to finish the matter, and the two subconsciously looked at Sui Feng. I saw Sui Feng's surprised face, and then a complex look of joy or sadness appeared on his face. Therefore, the two of them thought of it. The grievances left by Yoruichi before he left have not yet been resolved. At the same time, Captain of Division 9 Tuzhi Kanami asked, "Excuse me, what is the current casualty situation of the 9th team?" According to the information that came, there were no casualties in the attack, but all of them were incapacitated, Chojiro Sasaki replied. However, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni looked at him suddenly. Sasaki, when did this message come from? How many people are there in the brigade who invaded the 9th division? Chojiro Sasaki heard the words. Looking up at Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni, he replied. Yes, Your Excellency Yuan Luze, the news came secretly from the Baoting team 5 minutes ago. According to the information, there are 4 people who invaded the fan team this time. After all, he took out a secret folder. Hearing that, Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni took over the secret book. After opening it, his eyes kept scanning, but when he saw the last few live photos of MIJ, his breath suddenly changed. Although short, but those present are all captain-level characters, who can't detect it. This performance made the captains standing in 2 rows curious. What exactly was written in this secret compromise that made Yamamoto Motoyanagi perform this way? Suddenly, that is at this time, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni seemed to think of something, and handed the secret book back to Chojiro Sasaki, and ordered. Sasaki, circulate the secret copy to all captains. Remember, the man in the first photo is the Nitsuki who pretended to be Seirei Shinigami. I hope you don't make mistakes in the future. Talking room. His eyes were on Toshiro and Kenpachi. The former had a black expression, and he was indeed standing in front of Lu Huan face to face, but he didn't recognize him. This is black history. As for Kenpachi, the old man didn't deal with me, I'm still afraid. What? And at this moment, secrets are constantly being circulated. Its content is the same as Chojiro Sasaki said, but the last few photos of the secret book made the expressions of several captains change slightly. Their reaction was already expected by Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni. Young, too young, Nitsuki is too young, and only Toshiro can compare in presence. But don't forget, all the people present are Shinigami, and their lifespans are calculated in hundreds or thousands of years. Nitsuki is just human. A human being managed to defeat Zaraki Kenpachi, Byakuya Kuchiki, and Hitsugaya Toshiro. This. Unimaginable, this human named Nitsuki, what a terrifying talent. And at this moment, a voice suddenly came from outside the captain. Captain, Your Excellency the Captain, there is another secret report from the court team, whether to send it to the hospital or not. This voice is familiar to everyone. It is the voice of Omeda, the vice captain of the second squad. Sui Feng came back to his senses, subconsciously looked at Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni, and after seeing him nodding, the group ordered. Omeda, send in the secret book. Yes. The captain's room door opened. Omeda's sturdy body walked in with an extremely respectful attitude, and his hands folded tightly into the emperor. But this time, 2 secret packages were delivered at the same time. Sasaki, send the secret folder. Yamamoto Genryusai ordered again. Yes, Your Excellency the Captain. Chojiro Sasaki took the secret folder and handed it directly to the other party. This scene, it made the captains present curious again. In the past few decades, I haven't seen a single secret package. What happened now? Why are 3 secret documents sent in a row in one day? But don't want to, after reading 2 secret folders this time. Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni was furious, and his suppressed voice exploded with the hot ryotsu. 2nd Division Captain Sui Feng. Yes, my subordinates are here. Sui Feng stepped out of the queue and knelt down on one knee to accept the order. Captain of Division 9, Tuzhi Kanami. Yes, Captain. Tuzhi also walked out of the queue, but still kept standing. Looking at the 2 people in front of me, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni ordered coldly. I order the 2 of you to hurry to the 9th Squadron to stop the 4 people who robbed the prison. Immediately, looking at the captains again. At this moment, Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni's voice was particularly gloomy. The rest of the captains, follow me to Bipolar. Central 46 has announced that the execution will be brought forward, and the time will be set at 10 noon. Execution. Early, with Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni's voice fell. The captains at the scene were stunned for a moment, and then their expressions changed again and again. This is the first time that the execution has been notified in advance. Originally half a month's time, abruptly advanced to today. Something is wrong. This execution is too wrong. Seirei Gote 13th Division 9th Division. The voices were silent, there was no one there, and the entire 9th Squadron was brought down. Certainly, Natsuki and his party did not kill. Just by hitting, the Shinigami fell into a coma. After solving all the Shinigami blocking the way, Ichigo switched Zangetsu to his left hand, and while moving his sore right hand, he asked, "Don't those people just care about it?" Just those people refers to Shinigami who hide and watch secretly during battle. These Shinigami just hid and observed secretly, and did not intervene in the battle. Busy dealing with the members of Division 9, Natsuki and his group didn't worry about it. But I don't want to. After dealing with the members of Division 9, all these Shinigami disappeared. This as Irisawa Tatsuki came over, taking advantage of the situation. I mentioned a Shinigami from the 9th Division who was still in a coma in 973. I seem to know something. Yachiryu told me that the Soul Society has some Shinigami who specialize in intelligence collection. I think it refers to the group of people just now. Natsuki nodded in agreement. It should be right. In this case, our speed will be accelerated. The voice fell. He looked at the Shinigami in Longgui's hand. In an instant, this Shinigami was sweating coldly on his forehead, and looked at Natsuki in horror, thinking that he was going to torture himself. Never thought. Natsuki asked directly. Where is Lu Xuan, who was taken into custody by Division 9 today? Without torture. Such a question, is it too gentle? Maybe it's because the 9th Squad has been staying for a long time. This Shinigami looked at Natsuki with a dazed expression and asked himself. However, seeing his bewildered expression, Natsuki thought this person didn't know, and didn't want ink marks hit. Wait. Maybe it was because of Natsuki's posture. This Shinigami opened his mouth quickly and shouted to Natsuki. Don't I? I'm just dumbfounded by your gentle questioning. I know where your companions are locked up, and I even know where the key to the prison door is. PFF'd. Hearing the laughter of Longui and the others, Natsuki's face immediately turned dark, and he looked at the Shinigami with dissatisfaction. Since you know it, then just say it. You have to open your mouth only when I'm ready to do something. Isn't it affecting the atmosphere? Team 9 prison led by the kind Shinigami. Natsuki and his party finally entered the prison. At the same time, everyone always knows who is caught, but the identity of the person who was caught makes everyone except Makoto look confused. After all, whoever tells you, Mr. Yoruichi, the black cat who has been together. It turned out to be a nobleman of the Soul Society. This is everyone's blessing. Even, listen to this kind Shinigami that Mr. Yoruichi is actually a beautiful woman, which arouses the fantasies of Longui, Orihime, and Ichigo, and they are curious about Mr. Yoruichi's true face. At the same time, perhaps it is confidence that no one will rob the prison. The number of guards in the underground prison of Division 9 is not too many. In addition, there are people leading the way, and Natsuki and his party know the location of each hidden guard clearly. It's amazing. It only took 5 minutes. Easily stun the guards and come to the door of Yoruichi's cell. I have to say, this speed is even faster than going to school. This made the group a little confused, and after looking at each other, Yinjia showed a dumbfounding expression. So, you have successfully arrived at the prison gate? I thought it would be difficult to rob the prison, but I didn't expect. Suddenly, Natsuki interrupted the exclamation of several people. After Yoruichi was rescued, everyone can say whatever they want. Don't forget, only the captains are called to a meeting now, so we have this easy access. Wen Yan, the three nodded subconsciously. If you waste this opportunity, you won't be sure if it will be so easy next time. Before everyone decided to rob the prison, Shinigami informed Zaraki Kenpachi to hold a general captain meeting. Aware of all captain meetings, Tuzhi Kanami, the captain of Division 9, is also going to the meeting. Natsuki and others quickly rushed towards the 9th Division. Taking advantage of Tuzhi Kanami's absence, they easily beat up the 9th Division members. Think of this, all eyes are on Natsuki. Natsuki, put the key in and save Mr. Yoruichi. Ahoo! Yoruichi wearing the Ryotsu suppression device. Lying on the prison bed and yawning boredly. Because of his captain-level strength, the prison where he was held was specially reinforced with barriers. Usually, there are pure white walls on all sides. When an outsider uses the cell key to enter, a spiritual door will appear on one of the walls for people to enter and exit at will. And at this moment, just as Yoruichi finished yawning, while picking his nose board, the Lingza door suddenly appeared. This sudden scene made her startled. She kept picking her nose and looked at the door. Could it be? Is this going to be my interrogation? The speed is so fast. When did Seirei become so efficient? However, something unexpected happened to her. I saw Natsuki walked in through the spiritual door. The blue radiance of the Lingza gate sprinkled on the body, adding a sense of mystery. At the same time, seeing a familiar figure, Natsuki subconsciously raised his hand to say hello. Good afternoon, Mr. Yoruichi. I haven't seen you for a day. I don't know if you have a good meal. But the next moment, his expression suddenly became dull. I didn't pay attention before, so I greeted him naturally, but now I have reacted. PFF'd. The way you button your nose. Natsuki couldn't help laughing out loud. And this laughter also surprised Ms. Shihuan Yoruichi, who was so bored that she picked her nose. As if aware of something. Look down at the fingers that are still pinching their noses. However, the situation was even worse. Behind Natsuki, two figures came in from the Lingza gate. Orihime, Longui. Oops, the fantasy of aristocratic beauties is completely shattered. Gate of the 9th Division. Two figures dressed in captain's howry quickly approached. These two people, it was Sui Feng and Tuzhi Kanami who came to stop the prison robbery. Sui Feng looked at the fainted Shinigami, came to one of them, and knelt down to touch it. Still breathing. It seems that it is indeed as mentioned in the information, it was just knocked unconscious, and did not take its life. A trace of doubt appeared on her face. Some people don't understand why LV Calamity keeps his hand. Isn't it more troublesome to stun the enemy than to kill it? But then, he let out a long sigh helplessly, and said in disappointment. Pity. We're one step too late. These Shinigami were all in a coma, and it was unknown how long they had been lying there. It looks like the enemy has already robbed the prison and is evacuating from here. However, together, Tuzhi Kanami said, no, it should be said that we came at just the right time. As the captain of the prison team, he naturally has the ability to perceive underground prisons. At this time, under his perception, there are several Ryotsu in the underground prison. Although he doesn't know about Ryotsu of Luka, Shihuan Yoruichi's Ryotsu does. Next, he only needs to follow the requirements. Just drag the traveler and his party here so as not to affect Master Aizen's plan. Thinking of this, Tuzhi Kanami subconsciously reached out and pressed Zanpakuto on his waist. At the same time, Sui Feng heard Tuzhi Kanami's words. Thinking of the identity of the captain of the opponent's 9th team, he guessed that he might have a channel of understanding that he didn't know. This made her complexion no longer ugly. Instead, he stared deeply towards the underground prison. Traitor Yoruichi. I will never spare you, I will definitely send you back to jail. With different ideas and purposes, the two of them walked towards the underground prison at the same time. Underground prison. Natsuki touched the bag on his head, rolled his eyes at Yoruichi angrily, and complained. What a bad woman. I pinched my nose in prison, but blamed me instead. You have to figure it out. I brought someone to rescue you, you should thank me for guessing right. Certainly, Tukao belongs to Tukao, he didn't know why he was knocked. Shihuan Yoruichi actually directly dropped an attribute light cluster, power +1, which soothed his wounded heart. Listen to the complaints. Yoruichi smiled unapologetically. Sorry. Who made you come at the wrong time? Tomorrow 1 minute early, or 1 minute late, come at an inopportune time. Certainly, although it seems to be blaming Natsuki. But she also knew that she was at fault for this matter, and she just made the mistake to cover up the previous embarrassment. Ms. Yoruichi. Arisawa Tatsuki felt strange. Looking at the master in front of him who looks like a mature woman. She had a hard time connecting it to the black cat that had been lingering in her arms in the Urahara store earlier. But, he rolled his eyes at the heroic pair. After looking at himself, Long Gui suddenly felt that he still had a lot to learn. And at this moment, hearing Long Gui calling himself, Yoruichi looked sideways at Long Gui, the cheap little apprentice he had accepted in this world, and asked, "What's wrong?" "That. Mr. Yoruichi, how did you get caught? Also, Sato and Yulong, do you know their situation? Maybe it's because of being a woman." When Natsuki, Ichigo and others were still immersed in the joy of saving lives, Long Gui had already thought of his lost companions. When Yan, Yoruichi scratched his hair and sighed softly. "You're onto something. Actually, I was with Sato, Uryu, and Ganju. After the few of us landed, although we were besieged by the Shinigami, we escaped easily and rushed to the vicinity of the Repentance Palace." Speaking of which, Natsuki rolled his eyes angrily and continued. "But I don't know which bastard it is. It's all right to make a big splash to attract Mr. Yamamoto, but it just pissed him off, so." The voice fell, Natsuki's heart skipped a beat. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly, always feeling that what he said was the key point. And at this moment, looking at him like this, Shihu and Yoruichi stared at Natsuki with a funny thought in his heart, and said quietly, "I have nothing. Ryotsu can be covered at will. But Sato, Uryu, and Ganju won't hold back at all," and they directly attracted the violent old man Yamamoto. In order for the three to escape, I chose to stay in the rear, and then I was caught by the furious Mr. Yamamoto. The voice fell, Longui, Orihime, and Nichigo subconsciously looked at Natsuki. Shinigami of Seirei is not familiar, but they know Natsuki, of course they know who the master of yesterday's huge Ryotsu is. So, the three of them complained at the same time. The culprit who caused Mr. Yoruichi's arrest turned out to be Natsuki. And at this moment, the reasons have all been revealed. Natsuki couldn't keep pretending that he didn't know anything. He touched his head and apologized awkwardly to Yoruichi. Sorry. Mainly I can't beat that old man. The Ryotsu in my unresolved state is only the same as the Ryotsu when Mr. Yamamoto was not liberated. He is a monster at all." "Never thought." Yoruichi stopped directly. Flashing directly to Natsuki's side, his face was full of shock, and he asked in a trembling voice. "Swastika solution. I remember Natsuki, you only mastered Shikai, right? Could it be that, in just one night, you've mastered the solution?" Heard the word solution again. Longui, Orihime, and Ichigo also looked over curiously. They only know that Shinigami can liberate the power of Zanpakuto through Shikai, but they don't know what the swastika is. And at this moment, facing the eyes of the crowd, Natsuki directly pulled out Yuli from his waist and smiled lightly. "Swastika solution. Is this difficult?" After listening to Byakuya's explanation, I learned it instantly. The moment the sound fell, Ichigo, Orihime, Longui did not respond. But Yoruichi, who knew the truth, was so frightened that his mind went blank. Hear the explanation. Learn to understand in an instant. How is it possible? It takes decades of hard work for ordinary people. Even the god-turning body invented by Urahara only shortens the time to 3 days. How on earth did Natsuki do it? Shihu and Yoruichi was silent. After learning that Natsuki learns in an instant, she is so shocked by this terrifying talent that she falls into silence. Ichigo, Orihime, Longui, 3 people. Seeing her like this, I realized that the solution might not be that simple. And at this moment, look at the prison exit that is close at hand. The eyes of Natsuki and his party shone slightly, presumably no one likes such a gloomy place like an underground prison. It feels so good to have sunshine. With the sun shining on his face, Orihime sighed with emotion. That's right, the prison is too gloomy. Longui nodded in agreement. However, they didn't find out. Yoruichi and Natsuki looked slightly dignified. All of them turned their eyes to the door of Division 9, and the latter said coldly. "It seems that someone has rushed over." Sound falls. Under the amazed eyes of Ichigo, Longui, and Orihime. Two figures wearing the captain's haori came out from the shadow of the door of the 9th division, and the deep Ryotsu spread out. Pity. Ryotsu just spread, then Ryotsu unleashed by Natsuki pushes back. And at this moment, Sui Feng stared at Shihuan Yoruichi who came out of the prison. The breath changed instantly, excitement, anger, doubt, and many emotions erupted at this moment, but finally turned into a cold greeting. Shihuan Yoruichi. Traitor of the Soul Society, don't try to escape from me today. Hearing this familiar voice, a nostalgic look appeared on Shihuan Yoruichi's face, and he greeted. Yo. Isn't this Sui Feng, long time no see. However, as soon as she said this, Sui Feng's figure in the distance disappeared from the spot. When it reappeared, it was already standing beside Shihuan Yoruichi, and the short sword around her waist was drawn out at some point, and pressed against her neck. Sharp blade, it even made Yoruichi's neck bleed slightly. Pity. In the face of a sudden attack, there was no trace of panic on Yoruichi's face, but full of memories. I kind of miss the old days. I didn't expect 100 years to pass in the blink of an eye. Next moment, as the sound fell, she broke free from control in an instant, leaving only a piece of yellow clothing in her original position. Empty cicada, the special pace of the Shihuan family. Before being attacked, leave a coat or other items as a substitute to avoid damage. At the same time, Shihuan Yoruichi appeared behind Sui Feng. Before the latter had time to react, Shunpo dragged the other party away from the spot and disappeared, leaving only a faint sentence. Leave this captain to me. The rest, you can figure it out yourself. Everything happens in an instant. Before Ichigo Orihime and Longui could react, Yoruichi's figure had disappeared. And at this moment, looking at Tuzhi Kanami at the gate of Division 9. Natsuki curled his lips in displeasure. He thought he could leave before the other party came back. But don't want to, after all, some time was wasted. But fortunately, there are only 2 captains here. If there are more, even he can't estimate the safety of Longui Orihime. Ichigo. You go, or I go. Natsuki looked at Ichigo beside him, and asked with a smile. Suddenly, Ichigo smiled excitedly. Do you need to ask? You have already defeated 3 captains, let me give it to you this time. Sound falls, without giving Natsuki a chance to refute. He mentioned Zangetsu and rushed towards Tuzhi Kanami. As the captain, Tuzhi Kanami is naturally not weak, so he drew his sword out of its sheath to attack. Ding. 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 After meeting each other, the two slashed dozens of times, and sparks flew everywhere. Kurosaki-san. Inoue Orihime subconsciously worried. Natsuki and Arisawa Tatsuki watched the battle with relish. The crisp sound of knives and knives, the throbbing sensation of Ryotsu's explosion, and the sound of buildings collapsing beside you are simply breathtaking. Half an hour past Tuzhi Kanami has used Shikai. But the strength is still comparable to Ichigo, if you want to beat Ichigo, unless you use the solution. Pity, he seems to be worried about something. I would rather procrastinate than use solutions on this. And at this very moment, suddenly, 2 Ryotsu breaths came from afar. But Natsuki did not make any defensive gestures, just turned his head to look, and reminded. Yoruichi. We still have to wait for a while. Sound falls, the figures of Yoruichi and Sui Feng appear. However, Sui Feng didn't attack directly this time. Instead, he stood aside obediently and broke a piece of news by the way. Rukia's execution is ahead of time, and the time is set at noon. This information changed Natsuki's mind. For a moment of contemplation, a Shunpo appeared between Ichigo and Tuzhi Kanami, grabbing 2 sharp blades. Hey, Natsuki, get out of the way. Kurosaki Ichigo looked at Natsuki, subconsciously salty. Human. Let go of the knife in my hand. Tuzhi Kanami also said coldly. But next moment, PFF'd, a penetrating wound pierced through Tuzhi Kanami's abdomen. It was Natsuki who didn't know when he pulled out the long knife at his waist and stretched out the former's body with 10 powers. Done all this, Natsuki turned around and said to Ichigo. Ichigo. Rukia's execution time has been advanced again, we have to hurry to the execution site. Messed up. Everything is messed up. The current Ichigo hasn't learned how to solve it yet. The development has entered the stage of execution, which makes Natsuki a little worried about the next battle. Execution. Early. Kurosaki Ichigo widened his eyes and repeated in his mouth. He also didn't expect that the execution would be brought forward again, and the time was indeed not enough. Thinking like this, didn't care that Natsuki meddled in his fight. As for Tuzhi Kanami, Natsuki didn't have the slightest intention to keep his hand, and pulled out Zanpakuto little by little. PFF'd. Tuzhi Kanami widened his gray eyes. Feeling the pain in the abdomen, the whole person is stupid. Why did this travel disaster kill him directly when facing him? Could it be that he was exposed? At the same time Toshiro, who was supposed to go to the bipolar, but anxiously looking around in Seirei, looking for that silly girl. Hinamori Momo escaped from prison. This is the information that Jikai told him after the captain's meeting. After hearing this information, Toshiro felt more and more that something was wrong. With Hinamori Momo's character, how could he escape from prison for no reason? And thinking of Ichimaru Jin's killing intent before, he had a feeling that last night, Ichimaru Jin really had the idea of killing Hinamori Momo. If it weren't for Kira's shot, perhaps Dao Zi had already been killed by him at that time. Running on the streets of Seirei, Hitsugaya Toshiro became more and more nervous, fearing that Hinamori Momo's brain would have a twitch and he would trouble Ichimaru Jin again. This time, but not necessarily so lucky, someone rescued. Coincidentally, the Hinamori Momo Ryotsu wafting in the air seemed to be heading in the direction of the 9th squad. Team 9 Zanpakuto slowly pulled out from Tuzhi Kanami's belly. This kind of intense pain made the captain of the 9th squad break out in a cold sweat. Pain. It's like the pain of being torn apart. But with the experience of being the captain, at the moment when Zanpakuto pulled out of his body, he slashed at Natsuki with a backhand. Ding. Zanpakuto cut on Natsuki's shoulder. But not only was it not injured, but it also made the sound of iron crossing. This is, although invisible, but Tuzhi Kanami felt like he was chopping on a piece of steel at the moment. Not only did it not cause any damage, but the counter-shock force made his wrist numb. In a hurry, one jumped back, putting distance between himself and Natsuki. Pada, pada, pada. Blood gushes out from the abdomen, continuously dripping towards the ground, falling to the ground and exploding bloody flowers. Feel the pain in the abdomen. Tuzhi Kanami didn't dare to hold back, took out a bandage from his bosom, and wrapped it around quickly with one hand, but even so, it couldn't stop the continuous gushing out of blood. Lu Huo, your strength is very strong. Tuzhi Kanami raised his head and looked in Natsuki's direction, and said suddenly. Because the eyes are invisible, his other perception abilities are extremely sensitive. But at the last moment, when Natsuki pierced his belly with Zanpakuto, I only noticed a slight movement, and I was seriously injured before I even had time to avoid it. This feeling, Tuzhi Kanami only felt it on Aizen. However, since my task is to delay these disasters, even if I die, I can't let a few people leave. Think of this. Tuzhi Kanami reached for the ring on the Suzumushi handle. Swastika Suzumushi final form Enma cricket. The moment the sound falls, the ring on the Suzumushi handle expands rapidly. Instantly turned into several rings and released into the air. Suddenly, black rays of light gushed out from the ring, turning into a huge enchantment. Packed Natsuki, Ichigo, Orihime, Ryuki, and even Yoruichi and Sui Feng. Instantly, everyone's sense of hearing, sight, smell, and even Ryotsu sense is completely gone. What happened? Master Yoruichi, where are you? Why can't I see? Damn it. Why didn't I use this ability just now? You, Tuzhi Kanami, are indeed among the people who secretly acted with this ability. Of several people, Natsuki is not in a hurry. He has seen the plot, so he naturally knows Tuzhi Kanami's explanation. Well, how to put it, perhaps because of his own blindness, his awakened understanding is also developing in this direction. But in Natsuki's opinion, this ability can also be used as a support, the others are useless at all. After all, seals sight, hearing and touch. It doesn't mean that people's intuition can be sealed. It just so happens that as swordsmanship becomes more sophisticated, Natsuki's intuition becomes more and more accurate, plus the powerful perception that comes with fighting instinct. This time, even if you can't see it, you can't hear it. But in Natsuki's mind, seeing is still very clear. So, facing the solution of Tusen Kanami, a 25 boy, Natsuki acted as if nothing happened. Seeing him walking towards him step by step, he smiled lightly and said, "I'm really confident." Sound falls. Tusen Kanami also came in front of Natsuki. Perhaps confident in his understanding, he slowly put Zanpakuto on Natsuki's neck. If it is normal, there should be a cold sharp feeling coming from the neck. But Tusen Kanami's solution sealed Natsuki's sense of touch, so although he saw this scene, he didn't feel it at all. Interesting, this ability is more suitable for assassination. Feeling all this, Natsuki was not in a hurry, and even had the mood to think about other uses of this solution. And at this moment, Tusen Kanami has no nonsense. Clenching Zanpakuto tightly in your hand, chop hard towards Natsuki's neck artery. Ding. A spark appeared. Same result as previous attack. This knife did not cause any harm to Natsuki, which made Tusen Kanami frown slightly. He doesn't know, how did this trip happen? The defensive power is so terrifying that even a face-to-face attack cannot hurt the opponent. But, as the Shinigami captain, his attack style is not limited to swordsmanship. Hado's 54th Waste Flame. Chantless Hado was released by Tusen Kanami single-handedly. Suddenly, a purple flame covers Natsuki. Hado number 54. Waste Flame effect. Disc-shaped flames are released, burning the target completely. This is a Kido who won't stop attacking until his target burns out, and he thinks that's enough to take out Natsuki. Thinking like this, he looked at the rest of the group in his understanding. Slowly draw the knife and walk towards the nearest dragon circle. However, that is at this very moment. Suddenly there was a sneer behind him. "Hey, is such a weak attack playing tricks? It's too weak." Tusen Kanami stopped. A look of bewilderment flashed across his dark face. Over. Every house. What's happening here? Why is Natsuki still sentient under his swastika? No, since you know you are attacking, why don't you fight back? Why let yourself? This moment, Tusen Kanami is puzzled, but that didn't stop him from asking embarrassing questions. Can you see my attack from the beginning? Confuse. Tusen Kanami has never been in such a situation. It's the first time that I was ridiculed for being weak like a playhouse. But what puzzled him even more was that, if Natsuki can feel being attacked by the waste flame, then the scene where he slashed the opponent's neck with a knife just now, didn't he also see it clearly? This moment, Tusen Kanami's thoughts were flying, and he couldn't help ask. Can you see my attack from the beginning? The voice fell. Natsuki ignored him. Instead he raised his hand, grabbing the burning waste flame from his body. This moment, the waste flame, which is clearly a flame. It was successfully caught by Natsuki, and even played with it curiously. After feeling it for a while, he looked at Tusen Kanami again and shook his head. This Kido is good. It's a pity that your Ryotsu is too weak, it can't even break through my defense. Yes, for Natsuki, Tusen Kanami's Ryotsu is too low. It's been a day since entering Seirei last night. Natsuki met Zaraki Kenpachi, Byakuya Kuchiki, Old Man Yamamoto, Kyoraku Shunsui, Hitsugaya Toshiro, Sui Feng, Tusen Kanami's 7 captains. Among them, Yamamoto Old Man Ryotsu is the most exaggerated. This is followed by Zaraki Kenpachi, followed by Kyoraku Shunsui, Byakuya Kuchiki, Hitsugaya Toshiro, Tusen Kanami and Sui Feng in that order. Among the 7 captains, Tusen Kanami's Ryotsu came in second to last. This alone is enough for Natsuki to see how weak his Ryotsu is. And, with a record of fighting, Zaraki Kenpachi, Byakuya Kuchiki, Hitsugaya Toshiro 3 people. Neither of them could easily break through Natsuki's Ryotsu, let alone Tusen Kanami, whose Ryotsu was second to last. That's why Natsuki shook his head. Fei Yan is a good Kido, but the person who used it is not qualified. Think of this, he also lost the idea of continuing to play. Grabbing the hand of Waste Flame, squeezed it completely with a little force, then looked at Tusen Kanami, his eyes flickered slightly. Captain Tusen, you fight Ichigo to solve it. But he used Shikai to fight him. From this point of view, it seems like he is deliberately delaying time. Worker. Yoruichi didn't care about her after she appeared.
Plus Rukia's sudden early noon execution. How do I feel that your purpose of appearing here is actually to hold us back and prevent us from going to the execution platform?
After the sound fell, Tuzhi Konami's breathing paused for an instant. Monster. Just because I didn't fight with all my strength, you guessed my purpose. Sure enough. I must drag this monster here, otherwise Master Aizen's plan will be ruined. And at this moment, with their own perception and skills, Natsuki clearly noticed the change of Tuzhi Konami's breathing, and immediately realized that his guess was right. So, let him come and hold back his group on purpose. It can only be that man, Aizen Sosuke from Team 5. Then, I can't follow that man's will. Thinking like this, Natsuki said again while using Shikai. Captain Tuzhi Konami. It seems that my guess is correct, you really came to delay the time. Talking room. A phantom appeared beside me. Then, the dark blue Ryotsu links the two. In the next moment, one person, one soul, stood one behind the other, retracting the saber into its sheath in sync. Boom. The furious Ryotsu gushes out in an instant. This Ryotsu even shattered Tuzhi Konami's solution field impact. This is. Tuzhi Konami frowned. In perception, Natsuki's Ryotsu is rapidly increasing. In just a few breaths, he even approached the untied self, which made him unconsciously sigh. Traveler, you really are a threat. Although there is not much grievance between you and me, but for my justice, sorry, I must destroy you. His face immediately straightened up. Throw Zanpakuto Suzumushi into the air. Suzumushi 2 type red migratory locust. Pause time. Zanpakuto who spins and flies into the air, just like the king's treasure. It continuously casts sword rain from the air to the ground. Boom boom boom. Countless sword rains are coming towards Natsuki and his party. But at this moment, Natsuki is the only one who perceives all this in the group. But, facing such a wide range of attacks, instead, the corner of Natsuki's mouth raised a slight smile. Range attack. Rot. Unfortunately, what I'm least afraid of is this kind of range attack. Sound falls. Natsuki finally made a counterattack. Rub. One person, one soul instantly draws the sword. There is even afterimage chasing due to drawing the knife too fast. At this moment, two Zanpakuto slashed towards the midair at the same time. Silence soul cut. X2 huge Ryotsu, compress sharply the moment Zanpakuto is unsheathed. The sword light that cuts out one person and one soul is extraordinarily slender, but if someone despises it, they will definitely pay a terrible price. Click. Click. The sword light slashed across the air. Not only did it easily shatter the incoming sword rain, but it even slashed towards the boundary of the midair solution domain with undiminished power. Rub. Rub. The domain was cut with two slender openings. Sunlight suddenly poured in through this slender opening, and Ichigo and his party suddenly discovered that they had recovered their vision and so on. No, it's impossible. At the same time, the attack and settlement were. Tuzhi Konami clenches his fists in disbelief. He couldn't believe that his own solution was cracked in such a simple way. But the next moment, Natsuki slowly retracted the long knife. Then he looked at Tuzhi Konami and said lightly, I'm in a hurry. So, can you please die by my knife? The moment the sound fell, Tuzhi Konami looked up subconsciously. But at this moment, a knife light flashed out of nowhere. Poof. A head fell to the ground. The headless corpse wearing the captain's haori stood for a moment before falling weakly to the ground. Gradually, the gushing blood formed a pool of blood. Is it over like this? Obviously, justice has not been completed. A trace of unwillingness emerged from the head that fell to the ground, but there seemed to be a touch of relief in this unwillingness. At the same time, Hinamori Momo who just stepped into the gate of the 9th Division. Just in time to capture this scene in his eyes, while his pupils were shaking, he also completely believed everything in the letter. A teardrop fell from the corner of his eyes. Captain Aizen. I will definitely avenge you. Tuzhi Konami is dead, but he died peacefully. Natsuki's knife was so fast that he didn't feel the slightest pain. The only regret may be that he didn't want to die so early. At the same time, the moment he died, the system prompt sounded again after a long absence. Ding, kill the target Tuzhi Konami. Using the draw-on skill, you will permanently gain part of the target's spiritual power. Instantly, Natsuki felt that the spiritual power in his body increased dramatically. If it is described in percentage, the total amount of spiritual power increased this time is about 10% of itself. To know, Natsuki's current level of spiritual power is captain level. The 10% increase in captain level spiritual power can be said to be a very exaggerated benefit. Exaggerated too, he wants to kill some more Shinigami captains. And at this moment, a few people who just recovered from the Tusen Kanami solution. The first thing I saw was the scene of Natsuki beheading Tusen Kanami. Everyone's face changed suddenly. Especially Sui Feng. Seeing this scene, his face darkened instantly, and Ryotsu burst out angrily. You killed Captain Tusen, unforgivable. Even if you are a friend of Lord Yoruichi, absolutely unforgivable. Sui Feng's voice fell. The faces of the people present suddenly changed. Ichigo, Orihime, and Longui don't know the relationship between Sui Feng and Yoruichi. But look at the white feathers. Where do you not understand the identity of the opposing captain? And just now, Natsuki killed another captain in front of her. Several people suddenly became tense, approached Natsuki subconsciously, and looked at Sui Feng vigilantly. However, facing Sui Feng's threat, Natsuki didn't hesitate at all, bursting out of Ryotsu, who was stronger than her, and sneered. Unforgivable crime. I haven't even thought about the fact that you sent someone to capture Rukia in the real world, but the dragon member was seriously injured and almost died. The voice fell, the atmosphere instantly became dignified. Ichigo. Yinwei's eyes became extremely cold. Even with Orihime's gentle character, Shendu looked at Sui Feng with a trace of disgust. As for Sui Feng, facing Ryotsu pressing down on me. While she was amazed that Natsuki was strong, she gritted her lower teeth and glared away. And at this moment, feel the change of atmosphere. Yoruichi couldn't do it with a big head, so he quickly inserted between the two of them, persuading him. Stop it. There's no need for you two to be so hostile. When she was alive, I expected that the two of them would have to touch each other when they met. Unexpectedly, the situation was worse than she expected, and Natsuki killed Tusen Kanami in front of Sui Feng. To know, Seirei just died, and Aizen last night. Now Natsuki kills another Tusen Kanami. This is to challenge Jing Changting's majesty for Sui Feng. Think of this, Shihuan Yoruichi explained to Sui Feng. Tusen Kanami is the main messenger of that incident. Sound falls. Sui Feng's angry expression froze for a moment. I patronized Tusen Kanami as the captain, completely forgetting that the other party was one of the chief murderers who persecuted Yoruichi 100 years ago. Pause time. The expression on his face was a little stiff. Over the years, she has been strict with herself and never made a mistake. But I don't want to make such a mistake on the first day of reuniting with Master Yoruichi. However, I'm the captain of the second team. Let me just apologize to human beings like this. Where does this put my dignity? Thinking of this, Sui Feng's expression was stiff, but he still said coldly. Regardless of Tusen Kanami's real face, he is now the captain of the 9th division, and he was killed like this. As the captain of the 2nd division, I will never turn a blind eye. Wen Yan, Natsuki laughed on the spot. In that case, we have nothing to say. Let's fight. You won. I will let you handle it. I won. You apologize to me and Long Gui, and then hand over Xing Jun, who went to the world to perform missions, to me. Sound falls. Shihuan Yoruichi's expression becomes ugly. But Ichigo, Orihime, and the three of them are full of fighting spirit. Watching this scene, although Natsuki smiled, his expression was extremely cold. He knows, Yoruichi doesn't want to conflict with Sui Feng. But the grievance between the two was unavoidable as early as the moment Xing Jun almost killed Long Gui. Tusen Kanami's death, it's just triggering the grievances in advance. What's more, as a human being, Natsuki naturally prefers Longui and others. Your Shinigami is not necessarily stronger than me. Why did you almost kill someone but didn't even apologize? I agree. Sui Feng agreed to Natsuki's suggestion on the spot. She knew that Natsuki was very strong, even though he was human. He defeated Zaraki Kenpachi, Byakuya Kuchiki, Hitsugaya Toshiro and Tusen Kanami. However, Sui Feng, I'm the captain of the second team, and I'm not bad either. Especially her Zanpakuto Suzumaki, the queen of Shikai has a regular ability to kill with 2 hits. She believes, match Suzumaki with your own strength. Defeating Natsuki, a human being, is a no-brainer. Next moment, look at each other and see what the other is thinking. Then, the two disappeared from the same place at the same time. Ding ding ding. There was the sound of iron weapons clanging in the air. I saw that Natsuki and Sui Feng were constantly fighting in the air, chopping, white hits, the two crossed and used each other. Natsuki, come on. That woman is quite strong, I will also fight. Watching the scene of the two fighting, Ichigo, Orihime, and Longui reacted differently. Only Yoruichi, the eyes looking at the battlefield, are a little worried. Having fought against Sui Feng just now, I am undoubtedly the one who knows Sui Feng's strength the best. The strength is very strong, and with Suzumbaki's ability, the ordinary captain is not her opponent at all. One day learn to understand the pervert, it doesn't belong to the ranks of ordinary captains. But don't want to, when she was worried about Sui Feng. The result of this battle was resolved in an instant. I saw, the battle lasted less than 10 seconds. Sui Feng fell from the sky and tried to get up, but failed for a long time. Shihu and Yoruichi. What's happening here? If I distracted, Sui Feng will be caught in seconds. This moment, looking at the collapsed Sui Feng, Shihu and Yoruichi was completely dumbfounded. Just ask. What does it feel like to be ashamed? Maybe this answer, Sui Feng can tell everyone present. She never imagined that as a senior Shinigami captain, she would be so unmoved in the face of Natsuki, a human being. White hits? Useless. Slash? Useless. Keto? Useless. Even Suzumbaki's 2-hit kill didn't respond. Numb. Sui Feng was immediately numb. Although it is only a human being, Natsuki's Ryotsu is almost twice as big as his own, which makes Sui Feng unable to hurt the opponent at all when attacking. On the contrary, to her surprise, Natsuki just returned a sidekick. I lost my combat power, lying on the ground uncontrollably and twitching. The most important thing is that I fell in front of the most respected Yoruichi-sama, showing the most rude side to him. If it is possible, please kill me instead of torturing me like this. Gate of the 9th Division. Sui Feng bowed and apologized to Natsuki and Arisawa Tatsuki with a dark face. Very sorry. Just now I lacked consideration. Also, the action 10 days ago was indeed a problem with my subordinates. I will definitely give you a satisfactory answer. The last sentence, it was an apology to Long Gui, who was seriously injured by Xing Jun 10 days ago. At this time, Sui Feng has learned the truth of what Natsuki said about capturing Rukia, but seriously injuring Longui and almost dying. And at this moment, listen to Sui Feng's apology. Ichigo Orihime Tatsuki subconsciously looked at Natsuki. Natsuki shook his head slightly, expressing that he didn't care, then looked at Longui and asked her opinion. Pause time. Ichigo Orihime also looked over. Facing the gazes of the three, Longui felt a little embarrassed. To be honest, she almost died back then. How could she really not care at all? But, thinking of what Natsuki did to save himself, suddenly, Longui felt that the torture he suffered back then seemed not that painful, so he shook his head slowly. See, Natsuki respects Longui's choice. Turning to look at Sui Feng, who bowed and apologized, his voice softened slightly. Your apology. Quality, we accepted. Hearing the pause in the previous sentence, Sui Feng's heart skipped a beat. I thought it was Natsuki and Longui who didn't accept my apology, but I didn't expect that Natsuki just paused for a moment, and then continued to talk about Nuoji's. After hearing the complete sentence, she breathed a sigh of relief, looked at the two of them, and sincerely thanked. Thank you very much for your understanding. As for what happened to Miss Longui, I will definitely give you a satisfactory answer. Sui Feng apologizes. Natsuki and Longui also accepted the apology. Logically speaking, the grievances between the two parties should end here. Then everyone went to Xingtai to rescue Rukia, who was executed at noon. However, the development of things, but it often exceeds people's expectations. While everyone was discussing how to go to Xingtai to rescue Rukia, A figure came out from the darkness. She was wearing a special cloak, which perfectly covered her breath. Immediately, walking behind the unsuspecting Long Gui, resentment flashed in his eyes, and the next moment, he raised Zanpakuto and stabbed fiercely. PFF'd. The blade pierced through the flesh and was stained white. It was Natsuki, who was standing by the original Ben, who instinctively noticed the abnormality, prompting him to look at Longui. This look, then I found someone sneaking up from behind. Before he had time to think, he subconsciously put Ryotsu's right hand in front of Long Gui, and reminded at the same time. Long Gui, light up. Long Gui dodged to the side subconsciously when he heard the words. But this Zanpakuto knife has inexplicable patterns engraved on it. Ignored Natsuki's Ryotsu, easily pierced his palm, and ended up stuck in the bone seam. Hiss. Natsuki held back the pain and kicked the attacking figure away. Only then did the people on the side react, and they all looked in the direction of the attack, but they were stunned when they saw it. I saw. A petite girl in a cloak, slowly got up from the ground, looked at Natsuki and the others with resentment. I must avenge Master Aizen and kill you. Resentment in the voice, Natsuki and his group looked at each other in confusion. Revenge for Lord Aizen. How much did you drink to say this? A group of them, spread out last night like it was time to kill Aizen? At the same time, Natsuki slowly pulled out the Zanpakuto stuck in his palm. Bang dang. Zanpakuto was thrown to the ground. Only then did he look at the appearance of the attacker, subconsciously said. Vice Captain of Division 5, Hinamori Momo. Yes, the attacker was none other than Hinamori Momo. This point is also confirmed by Sui Fang's scrutinizing eyes. Kill you all. Revenge for Master Aizen. Hinamori Momo said with red eyes, gritted teeth and looked at everyone. Don't want to. Can you do this with your own strength? Sakura, Xiaosho, Shuangtian Guishi, I refuse. Inoue Orihime stood beside Natsuki, using his ability to heal. Moment, an orange-yellow barrier appears. The injury in Natsuki's palm quickly returned to its original appearance. Seeing this scene, Arisawa Tatsuki, who was worried in his heart, finally breathed a sigh of relief, and then looked in the direction of Hinamori Momo. His eyes were extremely cold. Hitting Natsuki. Absolutely unforgivable. Anger. Looking at Hinamori Momo who hurt Natsuki, Arisawa Tatsuki's heart was filled with an incomprehensible anger. Suddenly, she walked straight out of the line. Looking at Hinamori Momo in the distance, he said coldly. Natsuki, this woman, must be left to me. Hear the words. Natsuki, who is named at this moment, I saw Long Gui's anomaly at this time, but he didn't refuse. Then I'll leave it to you, Long Gui. Sound falls. Long Gui smiled confidently at Natsuki, and then turned to look at Hinamori Momo. Boom. A loud voice sounded. I saw her step lightly, and quickly swooped forward. Long Gui rushed in front of Hinamori Momo in an instant, and kicked Hinamori Momo with a whip under the eyes of the other party's resentment. Beyond the speed of ordinary people, before Hinamori Momo could even use Kido, he was kicked thousands of meters away. Do not forget, Long Gui is a white hits who studied with Yoruichi. Although she only studied for a week, she already has a good foundation in karate. Plus Ryotsu with Shinigami 3 seats. As long as he plays steadily, his strength is comparable to that of a vice captain. Suddenly, a battle that makes Hinamori Momo doubt his life begins. As a physicist, Long Gui didn't give her any chance to chant Kido's inscription at all, so she could output a meal just by being close to her. This makes for a Kido-type player. Thoroughly feel what is called a storm-like blow. Master Yoruichi. Long Gui's fighting style. Sui Feng is very familiar, which makes her look at Yoruichi. Hey, this girl is my new student, isn't she not bad? Yoruichi watched the battle with a smile on the field, and when she saw Long Gui hanging Hinamori Momo, she smiled even more happily. Although it's a bit bad to say that, but Aizen is the originator of the plan 100 years ago. And Hinamori Momo, as the vice captain of the opponent, now even threatens to avenge the dead Aizen. Even Yoruichi, I can't help but feel a little disgusted in my heart. Even, the group of them did not go up to besiege. It is already extremely restrained, otherwise several people would have gone up together. Aside Natsuki, Ichigo and Orihime, the three of them couldn't help but feel a little ashamed watching the battle between Longui and Hinamori Momo. Violent, so violent. Fighting. No, now this is a one-sided fight. I saw in battle at a distance. Long Gui is next to Hinamori Momo, not giving her any chance to chant Kido, using fists, legs, everything. Even if Hinamori Momo can use a Kido once in a while. With Longui's sensitive posture, he dodges and jumps at random, and easily defeats Hinamori Momo's Kido. Like this moment, beat Hinamori Momo for a long time. Long Gui couldn't help feeling a little exhausted, and paused for a few seconds. Seeing this, Hinamori Momo didn't care about his weak body after being beaten, and quickly chanted. King's Lander. The mask of flesh and blood, Vientian, soaring high. Things that bear the name of human beings. Scorching heat and strife, across the sea, turn southward, and move forward. After the sound fell, Hinamori Momo stared at Long Gui, and after aiming with one hand, he said. Hado's 31 red cannon. Suddenly, a crimson fireball flew out. Shoot towards Longui at an extremely fast speed. Pity. Face the incoming Kido attack. The corners of Longui's mouth were lightly raised, and he charged forward directly. 5 meters, 3 meters, pick. Seeing that the red cannon was about to hit Longui, Hinamori Momo's eyes flashed with joy, but it was just this moment. Longui used his legs hard, jumping up directly, while avoiding the red cannon. Flipping in midair, stretching out one foot, relying on the falling force plus flipping force, one foot directly hit Hinamori Momo's shoulder, forcing him to kneel on one knee. The moment of landing, Long Gui pressed one hand on the head of Hinamori Momo who was kneeling down on one knee. A nimble flip landed behind the opponent, twisting the body again. Ryotsu condensed on the legs and kicked away. Puff. The waist was kicked sideways. Hinamori Momo flew directly into the distance. At the same time, there was a tearing pain from the waist, and a mouthful of blood mist spit out in midair. Now, be the last straw for Hinamori Momo. Spit out a mouthful of blood, rolled his eyes, fell to the ground with the classic seniority in the plot, and fell into a faint. And at this moment, Toshiro following Hinamori Momo Ryotsu. He just happened to enter the gate of the 9th division, and saw this scene completely in his eyes. His pupils stared at the sky instantly. Peach. Peach. Plus the corpses of 40 sages and 6 judges lie on the ground. Judging from the dry and blackened blood of everyone and the stench from the corpses. Obviously, these people have been dead for quite some time. Suddenly, there was a sound of crisp footsteps. I saw that Ichimaru Jin, wearing the hat of the captain of the 3rd division, did not go to Biju to wait for the execution to begin, but appeared here miraculously. Walked to the courtroom and stopped. Then he turned around, looked at the empty back, and grinned loudly. Aren't you out yet? The sound echoed continuously in the empty 46 rooms. After a while Unohana Retsu stepped out from behind the stone pillar. Beside her is Katetsu Izan, the vice captain of her own team. Captain of Division 3, Ichimaru Jin. I don't know. Why did you appear here, and why is this place here? Ichimaru Jin raises eyebrows, he asked in a joking tone. Ouch. Didn't you come here with me, Captain Unohana? Is it necessary to continue to pretend at this point? Captain Ichimaru Jin. No, traitor Ichimaru Jin. The smile on Unohana Retsu's face gradually faded. An icy chill suddenly and slowly released from her body. Agree with the icy chill, emanating from Ichimaru Jin, it collides with Unohana Retsu's killing intent. However, that is at this very moment. A gentle voice suddenly came from behind Ichimaru Jin. Stop it, Silver, how can you speak ill of Senior Unohana? The moment the sound appeared, even though he was already prepared, Unohana Retsu's pupils still shrank violently, because the man who was supposed to die stood in the distance as if he was resurrected from the dead, smiling at him. Aizen. Sosuke, looking at the man walking out from behind Ichimaru Jin, Unohana Retsu's pupils constricted violently. Really, as I thought, you're not dead. Soul Society's greatest sinner Aizen Sosuke. The voice fell. Aizen Sosuke acted as if he didn't hear it.
With a gentle smile still on the corner of his mouth, he looked at Unohana Retsu and said with a smile.
Hello. Captain Yunohana, I think one night is enough for you to notice the abnormality. Several times of early execution time. But it's easy for people to notice the abnormality. After all, it's the Kuchiki family. Yunohana Retsu narrowed her eyes slightly, seriously looking at Aizen's appearance at this time, he explained. Also, I specially prepared a 260 corpse doll that makes it almost impossible to tell the difference. Your purpose must not be as simple as feigning death. Papa, Aizen applauds, but there is still a mistake to point out. You're right. My purpose can't be to fake death, but I have to remind you that I didn't prepare the so-called corpse doll. Sound falls, he casually raised his right hand. However, with this action, in the eyes of Yunohana Retsu and Katetsu Izan, a doll exactly like Aizen appeared in his hand. This is. Since when did I hold it in my hand? Yunohana Retsu and Katetsu Izan were shocked instantly, subconsciously said. But never thought. Aizen smiled slightly, and asked. When? Of course it was in my hands from the very beginning, it's just. Until that moment just now, I didn't let you see his original posture. Perhaps self-confidence, in other words, I want to let the enemy understand what I have done. Aizen Sosuke did not hide it, and revealed the true ability of Zanpakuto Kyoka Suigetsu. My Zanpakuto Kyoka Suigetsu. The true ability it possesses is complete hypnosis. Sound falls. Yunohana Retsu's pupils contracted suddenly. At this moment, the eyes she looked at Aizen were full of unknown reputation. 100 years ago, or even before, the Zanpakuto ability displayed by Aizen is to interfere with the enemy to kill each other through the refraction of fog and flowing water. But never imagined, Aizen has been hiding Kyoka Suigetsu's true abilities for so many years. That is to say, he had already planned all this 100 years ago. At the same time, listen to Aizen introduce his own Zanpakuto. Katetsu Aizen's pupils were shocked, and she couldn't believe that Captain Aizen, the most gentle in Seirei, behaved like this. Unbelievable, she looked at Aizen Sosuke, and asked. But you once showed all of our vice-captains your Zanpakuto abilities, didn't you? The voice fell, before Aizen could answer. Yunohana Retsu beside her understood. Show all vice-captains Zanpakuto abilities. Then, it's actually the ritual that complete hypnosis needs to complete, right? This moment, Aizen was still smiling. But the words in his mouth made Yunohana Retsu understand that he and even the whole Seirei have been tricked. Activation conditions for Kyoka Suigetsu. It is to let the enemy see the moment when Kyoka Suigetsu is liberated. And after seeing it once, when Kyoka Suigetsu is liberated again in the future, it will still be under the control of complete hypnosis. Saw it once. Yunohana Retsu seemed to think of something. But at this moment, Aizen guessed her thoughts, shook his head, and sighed. That's right. As long as you can't see it, you won't be controlled. So Tuzhi Kanami has been my subordinate from the very beginning, but unfortunately, just now, he has died under Tuzhi Kanami's subordinate. The voice fell, it exploded in the ears of the two girls like a bolt from the blue. Tuzhi Kanami, the captain of Shinigami, is Aizen's subordinate. And what's even more unbelievable is that Tuzhi Kanami, the captain of the Shinigami, died in the midst of the accident. This moment, both Yunohana Retsu and Katetsu Izan are dumbfounded. But what surprised them even more was that Ichimaru Jin, who had been silently standing behind Aizen watching him pretend, suddenly took out something like a strip of cloth from his arms. With a wave, cover yourself and Aizen in it. Aizen looked at the two and gave a final compliment. It's you, Captain Yunohana, who can detect the abnormality in just one night. The moment the sound fell, the cloth strips shone brightly, and the figures of Ichimaru Jin and Aizen disappeared instantly. Team 9 looking at Hinamori Momo who is on the ground. Just happened to enter the gate of the 9th division. Toshiro's pupils widened instantly after seeing this scene completely in his eyes. Peach. His tone was full of disbelief. Unexpectedly, I chased all the way, but in the end I was still one step too late, watching Tuzhi lose her breath. This moment, past memories with Hinamori Momo floated in his mind. Life at Grandma's house together, peaches who wet the bed, the joy of sharing watermelons, and the joy of each other becoming Shinigami. Finally, those memories turned into rage. His eyes swept over everyone present, Longui, Natsuki, Orihime, Ichigo, Yoruichi, and his fellow Sui Feng. Although it is not clear why Sui Feng is with the travel disaster. But at this moment, Toshiro was so angry that he didn't even think about such a trivial matter at all. His only thought now was to avenge that dead peach. Absolute. I will never spare you. Sound falls. Toshiro yanks out Zanpakuto, and Ryotsu explodes in an instant. At this moment, a terrifying cold breath swept over, as if winter was coming at this moment. Swastika solution. Sit in the frosty sky, Dagoran Hiranmaru. Moment. Everyone's pupils widened. Sui Feng and Yoruichi, who are familiar with Toshiro, even exclaimed. Such a cold breath. Oops, Toshiro actually used swastika directly. Boom. Toshiro Ryotsu broke out. An icy and bone-chilling breath swept across the audience in an instant. The full-out explosion of anger this time is a bit stronger than the solution in the morning. Even, under the oppression of this Ryotsu, the air at the gate of Division 9 began to become heavy. And at this moment, as the opponent of Hinamori Momo, Arisawa Tatsuki bears the most Ryotsu at this time. Under the impact of this captain-level ice-piercing Ryotsu, the body can't help but shiver. Between brow pencil and hair ends, a thin layer of frost emerged, proving her current state. Certainly, not to mention Arisawa Tatsuki who bears the brunt. Even Natsuki, Ichigo, and Orihime standing in the distance were shocked by this icy Ryotsu. But the difference is, Natsuki is powerful and not affected by this Ryotsu. Although Orihime is not as good as Longui, but beside him is Ichigo. After Ichigo Ryotsu is released, he will directly help Orihime offset 90% of the icy cold breath. So, after making sure that the people around him are okay, how could Natsuki watch Ryuki take the Ryotsu shock alone? Shunpo. Natsuki just disappeared from the spot, and when he reappeared, already standing sideways in front of Longguo. With one hand stretched forward, resist this chilling Ryotsu with your own Ryotsu. With the other hand, gently press on the top of Longgui's head, and slowly send his own spiritual treasure, Longui, to the doctor. Instantly, that icy cold feeling is gone. Longui looked up at Natsuki, with a bit of astonishment in his eyes. A warm current rose from the bottom of his heart, and whispered, Shaw. And Natsuki, now set your sights on Toshiro. The bitingly cold Ryotsu has stopped growing, and the frost mist has gradually dissipated, revealing the appearance of the swollen figure. Just like in the morning, ice stretches upwards from Hiranmaru's hilt. A pair of ice wings and tail are formed on its back, and several ice crystals hang behind it. Toshiro let out a cold breath. Slightly raising his eyes, he looked at Natsuki who stood in front of Longui, and said coldly. You again. It's just right, I took advantage of the opportunity to avenge the revenge of the morning. Sound falls, no thought of continuing the conversation. At this time, his brain was filled with anger, and he only wanted revenge, and Longui and Natsuki happened to be his goals. Natsuki sighed softly. It was obviously that idiot who attacked first. You're blaming us instead, it's a bit annoying. Not too loud, but the distance between the two is not that far. Natsuki believes that Toshiro can hear what he has to say, and as the captain of the 10th squad, he believes that he can make the right choice. However, Toshiro has been ridden with rage. I don't care who attacked first, and I just want to get revenge. Travel. I'm going to kill you. A Shunpo slashed at Natsuki. And at this moment, the crowd watching the battle, especially seniors like Sui Feng and Yoruichi who know a lot, seeing that Natsuki didn't even have time to release Zanpakuto, Toshiro exploded and attacked him, his face changed suddenly. Although both of them know that Chu Shashu is very strong. However, it is obviously impossible to face Toshiro's swastika in Zanpakuto's sealed state. After all, in solution state, but it has a 5 to 10 times Ryotsu boost. Natsuki has not even liberated Zanpakuto now, and is about to welcome Toshiro who has been released from the swastika. How could this be possible? In an instant, the two looked at Natsuki pessimistically. It seems that I have already seen the picture of Natsuki being killed by Toshiro who unleashed the rage. At the same time, Ichigo, Orihime, and Longui who don't know the truth. Although a little curious about Toshiro's transformation, I think Natsuki will be able to deal with this enemy." They all cheered up. "Come on, tree. Hey, Natsuki, don't lose, boy." And at this time, Toshiro's attack finally looms. Facing the slash that exploded with icy breath, Natsuki smiled softly. "Anger. But it will dull the knife. Although you are more imposing now, it is a pity that you who are dominated by anger are no longer to be feared, Toshiro." This moment, looking at the other person losing his mind due to anger, Natsuki understood what Aizen felt when he killed Toshiro with one blow. Next moment, the moment the sound falls. With a bang, a sharp slash came out from Natsuki's hand, accompanied by the roar of the sword piercing the air. A slanted white line suddenly appeared at the door of the 9th Division team tens of meters away from Natsuki. With a breeze blowing by, the top of the door of Division 9 was split into two, and it slowly fell towards the ground. At its fracture, straight and smooth as a mirror reflective. But compared to the door, everyone's attention is on Toshiro. I saw, previously remained in a decomposed state. Toshiro attacking Natsuki, the pace gradually slowed down, and he looked down at his chest blankly. Tick, tick, tick. At some point, a knife wound extending from his left shoulder to his right abdomen appeared on his body. And at this time, Natsuki stood in front of Toshiro with a sword in one hand. The breath was extraordinarily calm, as if nothing had happened. But the Zanpakuto in his hand pointing obliquely to the ground. However, it was stained with a smear of blood, slowly dripping from the tip of the knife to the ground. Suddenly, poof! As if he had just been slashed at this time, the wound in front of the figure continued to spurt out fresh blood. Pat! Toshiro completely lost consciousness. The body, unable to control it, slowly fell to the ground. Not long after, the blood gushing out in front of him formed a pool of blood under his body. Watch this scene. Everyone present is divided into two performances. Ryuki, Ichigo, Orihime, all of them had joyful expressions on their faces, happy that Natsuki had successfully defeated his opponent. But Sui Feng and Yoruichi, the expressions of the two of them changed instantly, they were completely muggles. The whole brain becomes empty, only the figure of Natsuki emerges in the mind. No life. To kill Toshiro, who understands in seconds. Toshiro fell in a pool of blood. Due to his loss of consciousness, his swastika was automatically dispelled, and the ice turned into spiritual particles and dissipated in midair. Natsuki, watching this scene, calmly put the Zanpakuto back into the sheath. In this battle, not only was there no solution, even Shikai was not used. But the result. But it ended the battle with a slash. This is a huge contrast. Make Sui Feng and Shihuan Yoruichi thoroughly muggle. While getting to know Natsuki's strength more and more, I was also deeply shocked. The two of them could never have imagined, he actually has such great strength and talent. Even Toshiro in the swastika state can't hold a knife in his hand. Think of this, the two looked at each other. They both saw the shock in each other's eyes. This talent is too powerful, so powerful that it makes people unconsciously fear. And at this moment, Long Gui standing in the original position. Looking at Toshiro, who fell to the ground, there was a flash of excitement in his eyes. Faced with the cold Ryotsu before, this made her clearly aware of the gap between herself and the other party. But now, such an enemy whose strength far exceeds his own. He was cut down by Natsuki with just one knife, and while helping himself out, it also showed his strength. Really, Natsuki's strength is beyond my imagination. Then. You can't be left behind too much, you have to work hard to catch up. Think of this, Arisawa Tatsuki looks at Yoruichi again. She knew that her cheap teacher must have a more powerful move. As long as you can learn it yourself. Not to mention completely catching up with this guy, as long as I can help, I will be satisfied. And at this moment, Ichigo's gaze was fixed on Natsuki. With that knife just now, with his strength, he could only see a vague shadow. Unknowingly, is he so far behind Natsuki? Become stronger. Want to become stronger, and then fight side by side with Natsuki. Instead of facing a powerful enemy, you can only stand and watch from a distance. With the expectation in my heart. A little power is awakened in the body, and it starts pumping again. In the inner world, feel the slowly increasing strength of yourself. Uncle Zagetsu stared into the air, as if he had sensed Ichigo's intentions. He grinned wildly and said, "Want to become stronger? Then come and get it. I put all my efforts here. As long as you have the courage, take everything away, Ichigo." Laughing wildly, Kurosaki Ichigo seemed to hear a voice. At the same time, an illusory shadow slowly appeared in front of his eyes, and that familiar appearance immediately filled his eyes with joy. Cut. Uncle Zagetsu, at the same time. Natsuki didn't know what these people were thinking. He glanced at Toshiro, who was lying dead on the ground, curled his lips indifferently, turned to look at Sui Feng, and joked. "Captain Sui Feng." This time Hinamori Momo and Toshiro went first. "You won't be the same as before. If you can't see it, you will fight me." Sui Feng feels bitter and can't tell. It is her luck to meet such a powerful pervert, but it is also her misfortune. "Fortunately, I have such a goal in the future. You can always warn yourself not to be careless, and to always work hard. But unfortunately, when I met Natsuki for the first time, I already touched it once." Seeing that Sui Feng didn't reply, Natsuki didn't care, and asked again. "What will this guy do next? No matter, he will die." Wen Yan, a hint of surprise appeared on Sui Feng's face. She didn't expect that Natsuki would still care about Toshiro, but the next scene made her understand. He does care about Toshiro, but this concern. But it seems that there are not so many. I saw Natsuki walk to Toshiro's side, kicked him with his feet, and seeing that Toshiro was still awake, he couldn't help but sighed. "Hold on for a while. After Rukia is rescued, you won't hang up again. Let me bandage it up briefly, otherwise he will really die." Sui Feng had no choice but to take the initiative to step forward. She understood. What Natsuki cares about Toshiro is when he will die. If you really want to heal, doesn't that girl named Orihime have the ability to heal? To know, previously Orihime treated Natsuki's palm wound. Sui Feng said that he is in the eyes of income from beginning to end. Knowing that Toshiro was seriously injured, but not letting that human girl come for treatment, it was obviously intentional. And at this moment, hear Sui Feng take over the mess. Natsuki was also very happy in his heart. He killed Tusen Kanami because he knew the other party's identity. Toshiro is different. This Seirei Genjung Maohong's 10 Division captain. If it is really killed, Natsuki believes that the old man Yamamoto who met last night will definitely give himself a surprise. Thinking of this, Natsuki looked at Sui Feng, earnestly asked. "Then leave it to you. Toshiro handles it well, and the matter here will be over. And the next goal, okay, good. It is time to go to the execution platform and save Rukia, who is about to be executed." Thinking like this, his eyes turned to Tusen Kanami's body. I saw that there was a long strip of cloth in his arms. What is this? 1000 anti-white snake? In memory, Tusen Kanami and Ichimaru Jin were teleported to the execution platform by waving this thing. Certainly, Natsuki is a pregnant woman who definitely won't use it. After all, the time to become a Shinigami is too short, and there is still too little understanding of some corresponding equipment and props. But, although Natsuki can't use it, but there is still a former patriarch of Tianqi Bingzwang fan. Think of this. He silently looked at Yoruichi. Meow meow meow. Suddenly, Yoruichi felt like he was being raped by a demon. Mao execution ground consisting of a scaffold and bipolar spears. After liberation, bipolar spear will become the king of Ruin Yi. Will have the destructive power of millions of Zanpakuto added. And at this moment, in front of the bipolar execution platform, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni awaits execution time. Byakuya Kuchiki, Komamura Sajin, Kyoraku Shunsui, Zaraki Kenpachi, Jashiro Yukataki. Just like at the captain's meeting, the 5 captains and their respective deputy teams lined up in 2 rows. For this execution, Central 46 requested that all captains and deputy captains of the squadron watch the execution, so as to serve as an example to others. But unfortunately, only half of the captains came here upon request. The captains and deputy captains of the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 9th, 10th, and 12th teams were not present. This makes Yamamoto Yuan Yanasai Shigekuni, that mood, which was not so wonderful, became even more unpleasant. And at this moment, Rukia stands below the execution platform. Her gaze was extraordinarily calm, across the crowd, scanning the entire Seirei. It seems that before the execution, put Seirei in your mind. On the side are a few guards of the Repentance Palace who escorted Rukia over, and they also shoulder the task of liberating the King of Ruin Yi. In this quiet and excessive atmosphere, time passed by little, and the sun was hanging high above our heads. Finally, the prescribed time for execution is coming at noon. At this time, looking at the sky, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni immediately walked towards the execution platform, and looked up at Rukia on the execution platform. Rukia Kuchiki, do you have any last words to say? This moment, the already quiet execution ground. Now it's a little quieter. This is the last bit of decency left for Rukia, who is about to be executed. Crowd. Byakuya Kuchiki watched the scene. His eyes trembled slightly, as if he was doing some kind of struggle. But thinking of the oath he made, his eyes finally returned to calm. And at this moment, listening to Yamamoto Genyanagi Shigekuni's inquiry, Rukia was slightly taken aback, but then figured out something. Kaido. Yes, Your Excellency the Captain. I only have one wish. I hope you can spare Natsuki and the others. For Rukia's last words, Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni agreed to her request without hesitation, even if it was just a white lie. Subsequently, he declared aloud, the execution ceremony has officially begun. Sound falls. A set of spiritual instruments of torture appeared out of thin air. Rukia was lifted into the air by this set of torture instruments, and the guard of the Penance Palace opened Shikai to release the bipolar spear. Just for a moment, the bipolar spear is successfully liberated. Boom. The deep blue Ryotsu explodes at this moment. It seems to be declaring its majesty to the outside world. As this bipolar? This Ryotsu is really amazing. It's so powerful, I feel trembling all over just by feeling it on the spot. Now, feel the breath of bipolar liberation. Many captains and vice-captains sighed with emotion at its huge aura. At the same time, in a voice of emotion, bipolar has successfully transformed into its final form. Like a phoenix wrapped in flames, it stopped in front of Rukia. Watching this scene, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni also explained in a timely manner. King of the Hub. The true posture of the bipolar spear. When it passes through the sinner, it also represents the end of the death penalty. Wen Yan. The passage of time seems to slow down. Am I going to die? Rukia stared at the destroying Grain King in front of her, and memories of the past came to Rukia's mind. Had a tough upbringing in Rukongai. There is the hard work of studying at Spiritual Arts Academy. After being adopted by the Kuchiki family, he lived on thin ice for decades. But what finally emerged? But it's the little by little when I got along with Natsuki in the short 3 months in this world. A life-saving grace in the beginning. The next day, I was worried about my health, because of the ingredients she prepared for the ceremony. And the warmth when the two go home together on the way to school, after school every day. There are also interludes. When they are angry, they will tease each other. When they are happy, they silently accompany each other. Even when they go to the cinema together, they secretly attack them. Very bland, nothing spectacular. But it is this faint warmth that gives Rukia a different memory, which is the attention that has never been experienced in Soul Society for decades. I never regret meeting you, Natsuki. Reflect on 3 months of life. Rukia Kuchiki smiled happily. The only regret I want to say is that I can't be by your side, but with Long Gui here, I can go there with peace of mind. After all, compared to me, she should be your right choice. Thinking of this, Rukia closes her eyes and waits for death to come. Looking at this scene, many of the captains and deputy captains who watched in front of the execution platform turned their heads away, not wanting to watch the cruel scene that followed. However, at the moment when the King of Ruin Yi was executed, suddenly, Rideo's confident voice sounded in everyone's ears. Rukia. I said, you can always trust Natsuki. Hear the voice. Rukia opened her eyes suddenly. Looking around, the familiar figure actually appeared in front of him, blocking the attacking King of Destroying Valley with one hand. Natsuki. At this moment, her voice is full of surprises. At the same time, a few meters in front of the execution platform, I don't know when 2 white ribbons appeared, constantly circling around. Beneath this white ribbon, slowly walked out a few figures that stunned everyone present. Ichimaru Jin, Sui Feng, Shihuan Yoruichi, and the captain of the 5th Division who should have died, Aizen Sosuke. Feeling that familiar Ryotsu, Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni's eyes flickered slowly, looking at the few people who appeared suddenly. Don't know what happened though, but he felt that he was cheated, so, Mr. Yamamoto was not happy, he was very angry. Furious and full of fiery Ryotsu, in an instant, suddenly erupted from himself, pressing down on everyone present regardless of friend or foe. Hot. Under this violent Ryotsu attack, all the clouds in the sky evaporated at this moment. Hot. 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 This is everyone's first feeling. But the next moment, people found that the clothes started to smoke again. This is because the temperature is too high, causing the clothes to spontaneously ignite. Certainly, this feeling is uncomfortable though. But with the strength of the people present, it is not unbearable. Pressing the brim of his hat, Kyoraku Shunsui stretched out his hand and laughed softly. Yay, the breath is still so hot, Master Shan. Indeed, the captain's Ryotsu has not changed over the years. Jashiro Yukitake also thought the same way, following the Tao. But seeing a group of people appearing in front of him, Jashiro Yukitake seems to see an opportunity, secretive friend. Okay. Kyoraku Shunsui made a gesture. At the same time, he slowly pulled out Zanpakuto, preparing for the next collaboration. And at this moment, Yamamoto Genryunagi's eyes sparkle. He has lived for thousands of years, and he has never encountered anything. Therefore, he cares more about Aizen's resurrection and the truth behind it than the disaster caused by his children's feelings. Aizen. What is your purpose? Even if you don't hesitate to feign death to give up your captain's status, you must complete your goal. Right now, Yamamoto Genryusai's voice was much flatter. Ryotsu, who was furious and leaked out, also restrained himself under his own control, and the hot feeling dissipated accordingly. Purpose? Aizen is still smiling gently. But his eyes are full of confidence at this moment. From the beginning, I planned everything. The position of captain is just a part of my goal. Talking room. His eyes turned to the bipolar. Seeing Natsuki and Rukia looking at themselves, they smiled warmly. Meet Rukia. The travel accident that caused a sensation from yesterday to now is you. Although you don't know me, but in order to thank you for helping me attract most of Seirei's attention yesterday, I still prepared a thank you gift. Thank you. The first few sentences are not important. Importantly, what does Aizen Sosuke's last line, thank you, mean? Next moment, I saw Aizen slowly raised his hand to himself, and said directly. Hado no 63 fiery lightning howl, sound falls. A force of thunder condensed in his hands. Immediately, facing Natsuki's widening eyes, a huge thunder shell struck away. Danger. The brain keeps stimulating him to dodge. But if he dodges, it will be difficult for Rukia behind him to escape. Click. Crucial moment. A wall of ice stands in front of him in Rukia. Zanpakuto in Natsuki's hand, the sword also has layers. But an unexpected scene happened at this moment. The thunder shell that was originally aimed at him suddenly changed direction. Boom. There was a loud roar. At the same time, there was a burst of dust with many sawdust. Watching this scene, Ichigo, Orihime, Lei and others' hearts skipped a beat. Natsuki, and Rukia. Damn it, actually launched a sneak attack on Natsuki. I can't spare you. The other side, Kyoraku Shunsui and Jashiro Yukitake look at each other. I can see the unexpected look in the other party's eyes. This is all right. There is no need for them to stop this execution. Bastard, you actually destroyed the bipolar. Seeing this, Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni, angry Ryotsu broke out again. But before he could get angry, the smoke and dust in the air gradually dissipated, and the picture revealed immediately made everyone's eyes widen. I saw just where the bipolar is. At this time, a huge ice shield appeared. This is Hitsugaya Tashiro's ability. Seeing this, Yamamoto Motonyanagi Shigekuni felt a sudden thought in his heart. Yes. In the morning's temporary captain's meeting, Hitsugaya Tashiro means that Natsuki can use his abilities. At that time, Kuretsuchi Mayuri revealed the relevant information, but unfortunately, before he could continue the introduction, he was interrupted by the sudden appearance of secrets. Now it seems, Hitsugaya Toshiro's information was correct. Yamamoto Motoyanagisai Shigekuni narrowed his eyes slightly, staring at this brat who had teased him once, wondering what he was thinking. At the same time, Ichimaru Jin said with great interest. Interesting. You can actually use Hirenmaru's ability. Captain Aizen, this is really interesting. Why don't you give him to me? I'm very interested. The voice fell. Aizen didn't refuse. Wen Sheng agreed. In that case, I'll leave it to you, Silver. Regarding handing Natsuki over to Ichimaru Jin, he doesn't think the plan will fail. Or, even if Ichimaru Jin fails, Aizen also has the confidence to complete the plan. However, that is at this very moment. Everyone paused, and an unknown existence linked themselves. This is. What did Yamamoto Genyanagi Saigakuni think of? Gote 13 captains, vice captains, and vice captain agents. A female voice sounded in everyone's ears. It details Aizen's suspended animation, Central 46's total destruction, and his various plans. But, even if all his plans are exposed, the gentle smile on Aizen Sosuke's face remained unchanged. In other words, if his plan is exposed, why is it not at the top of his calculations? Like now, it's just a plan, but enough to affect the emotions of the strongest Shinigami in the millennium. As pieces of information came out, Ryotsu of Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni also became more and more violent. To the end, I heard that the 46 chambers were completely destroyed. I and others are acting under the false orders of Aizen. Sosuke, Yamamoto Genyanagi Shigekuni's Ryotsu into substance. The scorching breath scorched the surrounding air, his eyes fixed on Aizen, and he gritted his teeth. Even if you risk your life, the old man will never let you achieve your goal like this. Sound falls. Vibrate the crutches in your hand. In an instant, the temperature that had originally dropped, let it go again. With this action, a Zanpakuto fell into the hands of Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni. Suddenly, a red light, crazy spread throughout the execution platform. Everything is ashes. Ryujin Jaka, billions, blazing. Fiery and raging flames. The moment Ryujin Jaka was liberated, it swept across the execution platform. Fortunately, everyone present has some strength. Although it was a bit sudden, there were no casualties. And at this moment, Yamamoto Genryusai tied his shirt around his waist, exposing the body covered with scars, but still muscular solid body. One-handed knife. Ryujin Jaka is burning with flames. Just like the constantly burning and rising sun, it exudes unparalleled heat, and its temperature is so high that it makes the surroundings constantly twist. Immediately, pointing single-handedly at Aizen in the distance, he judged with that old but majestic voice. Today, as the captain of the 13 divisions of the court, I will personally behead you and other sinners. The voice fell to 597. Aizen smiled, very gently. Sinner. I don't know which crime the captain is talking about. Did you kill room 46? Or did you deceive you, the captain? Or did you arrange today's situation? Every sentence, Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni's face turned dark. As if aware of the master's mood, Ryujin Jaka also emits hotter flames. It's useless to talk too much. Let the old man personally end your crimes. The moment the sound fell, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni stepped forward, raised his sword and slashed at Aizen. It's a simple swing of a knife, but because of the different people who use it, the power displayed is also different. I saw a huge flame slashed obliquely. Seeing this, Natsuki, who fell from the bipolar, had a curious gleam in his eyes. To know, this looks like an ordinary slash. But the perfect self-Ryotsu is integrated into it, the two complement each other, and their power superimposes each other. For now, Natsuki can integrate Ryotsu into slash. But it can't be as perfect and as free as Mr. Yamamoto. And at this moment, Aizen didn't feel nervous at all. He even had a smile on his lips. Captain. Shinigami's battle, though Ryotsu's battle. But sometimes, the unequal intelligence can also affect the victory of a battle. Sound falls. The attack has already struck in front of you. PFF. Zanpakuto mercilessly chopped a terrifying knife mark cut almost from the shoulder to the waist, cut across the body of Aizen. Tick, 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 blood gushes out from the wound like a column. Watching this scene, Kyoraku Shunsui, Jashiro Yukitake, as well as Zaraki Kenpachi and Byakuya Kuchiki didn't understand. Is Aizen so weak? He couldn't even catch a slash from the chief, Shan Yi. The captain won. What a waste of time and no fun. No, I always feel that it is not that simple. Although Lord Shan is powerful, since Aizen dares to rebel, I don't think he will be defeated so easily. Byakuya Kuchiki, Zaraki Kenpachi, Kyoraku Shunsui, Jashiro Yukitake expressed their thoughts one by one. But completely unaware, a Shinigami captain disappeared without knowing it. At the same time, the corner of Natsuki's mouth twitched. In his sight, the old man Yamamoto ignored Aizen in front of him, and instead slashed at the dazed dog beside him. This also makes Natsuki realize the horror of Kyoka Suigetsu. Kyoka Suigetsu, Aizen's Zanpakuto ability, the function is complete hypnosis. Apparently, Yamamoto Genyanagi Shigekuni is in a state of being completely defeated by Aizen at this time. Suddenly, Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni frowned. The feeling of cutting people is wrong. The place where the knife was cut just now should be slightly higher. Pity, before he could figure out the anomaly. Aizen Sosuke laughed again and snapped his fingers. Suddenly, that stood there blankly, Aizen, who was slashed by Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni, shattered like a giant. Immediately, a figure familiar to everyone appeared. Komamura Sajin. No, it should be said that Komamura Sajin was seriously injured by a knife. Captain Komamura. What's the situation? What's the right time to get injured? Kyoraku Shunsui and Jashiro Yukitake were completely stunned, not understanding why, but Zaraki Kenpachi smiled excitedly. What? It turns out that Aizen's strength is so strong. If you cut each other with him, the persistence time will be longer. And at this moment, Yamamoto Genyanagi Shigekuni, looking at Komamura Sajin, who was seriously injured by himself, his face was extremely ugly. The key is, Komamura Sajin did not lose consciousness directly. Instead, he looked at the captain, his eyes widened in disbelief, as if he was questioning the other party. Why did he cut himself off? And at this moment, Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni was stunned. Looking at the dead body of Komamura Sajin on the ground, I can't speak for a long time. Facing this scene, Aizen has no idea of pursuing the victory. Instead, he turned to look at Ichimaru Jin, and ordered as usual. Silver. You offered to deal with the travel disaster. Then, please don't let me down this time. Relax, Captain Aizen. Ichimaru Jin didn't say much, but glanced at Natsuki inadvertently. Next moment, his figure disappeared in an instant.
No way. This is targeting me. Natsuki has been staring at the two of them, seeing Ichimaru Jin disappearing, complaining while defending.
Next moment. Draw your sword out of its sheath and stand behind you. Ding. 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 The successive slashes were easily blocked. If I didn't react at just now, I was afraid that I was successfully attacked by surprise, and the result is not difficult to think about. One attack fails, Ichimaru Jin was not in a hurry, and walked out from behind. There is still that playful smile on the corner of his mouth, but this time his voice is extraordinarily serious. Don't you use Hirenmaru's abilities? I'm actually quite curious, compared to Toshiro, Yui's water wheel is stronger. You think I'm stupid? Natsuki complained angrily. Hirenmaru is suitable for large-scale damage attacks, and the speed is naturally a little slower. If you use Hirenmaru to fight you, isn't this courting death? Good guy. I treat you as an enemy, but you treat me as a fool? Even if you are curious, you can't bully people like this. Natsuki's words. It made the people present stunned. They all know the power of Hirenmaru, and for Zanpakuto, the strongest ice type, the damage is really good. But there is only one disadvantage, its ability is to attack by condensing ice. Although the speed cannot be said to be slow, but compared with Shinso, it is indeed not at the same level. Several captains looked at each other. Kyoraku Shunsui stroked his chin and said thoughtfully. Although Hirenmaru's ability is not bad, but its attack is mainly for area damage. In terms of speed, compared with Shinso, it is indeed not easy. Sound falls. Jashiro Yukitake has a different idea. If it's just a personal battle, it might be true. But when facing enemies, Tashiro's Hiranmaru has a great advantage against a large number of enemies, and Ichimaru Jin's Shinso is not as good. Wen Yan, the vice captains on the side, also nodded in understanding. Jashiro Yukitake's analysis is indeed relatively comprehensive, from the advantages and disadvantages of individuals to the advantages and disadvantages of facing the enemy. But Zaraki Kenpachi suddenly said, "Hey, why are we just watching like this? Lousy has been holding back his fighting spirit." The voice fell. These people react. Over there Natsuki and Ichimaru Jin are still fighting, and Aizen is also fighting with the captain. Result. Just look at them doing here. Don't worry about Ma. Kyoraku Shunsui laughed. In this situation, if we rashly do it, maybe not only won't help, but will also affect their battle. Why not just watch it like this? Say it. Although there is a bit of lazy and slippery meaning. But everyone is the captain, and they know that the situation is indeed as he said. If they randomly intervene in other people's battles, it might really be a waste of time. Therefore, although a little anxious, but everyone held back their desire to make a move. Stand aside quietly, and when you need help later, everyone will go to help together. Zaraki Kenpachi said irritably, "It's so annoying, I just want to find someone to chop, or be hacked." As soon as this remark came out, the other captains froze. After all, it can be roughly divided into 3 different forces now. 1. The traitor force headed by Aizen. 2. Travel disaster forces headed by Natsuki. 3. The Seireitei local forces headed by Yamamoto Genyanagi Shigekuni. But the problem is, Natsuki fights Ichimaru Jin. Yamamoto Genryasai Shigekuni fights Aizen again. Now Zaraki Kenpachi wants to kill someone, but Aizen and Ichimaru Jin have their own opponents, and he obviously can't intervene. Seireitei native forces, and no one wants to fight Zaraki Kenpachi. This leads to, if Zaraki Kenpachi wants to fight, just choose opponents from the few remaining people in the brigade. But now both sides are dealing with the traitor forces at the same time, and you Zaraki Kenpachi suddenly go to kill the people of the travel disaster forces. Isn't that good? Thinking of this, several captains looked at each other. Then, Jashiro Yukitake took the initiative to stand up and proposed. "Kenpachi, please bear with me. After this incident is over, we will give you a tree." But the words are not finished yet. Yachiryu next to Zaraki Kenpachi. His eyes suddenly lit up, and he stared at Ichigo in the distance and shouted. "Look, Ajien, that's not Xiao Yima." Following Yachinlu's eyes, Zaraki Kenpachi grinned, revealing a sinister smile. "It's not that Natsuki guy though, but I heard from Natsuki that Ichigo is pretty good too. If that's the case, I'll use you to pass the time." Hearing the words of Zaraki Kenpachi, Jashiro Yukitake was taken aback, subconsciously dissuading him. "Wait, Kenpachi, it's inconvenient to fight the brigade forces now." But the words were not finished. Zaraki Kenpachi tapped his feet and ran in the direction of Ichigo. Jashiro Yukitake. PFF'd ha ha ha. Kyoraku Shunsui lowered the brim of his hat again, his shoulders kept shaking. Only Byakuya Kuchiki, looking at Rukia in Natsuki's arms. Although she was constantly exclaiming on her expression, she couldn't hide the sense of happiness from the inside out. As if only with Natsuki, she doesn't worry about anything, she doesn't have to be afraid of anything. Even though I'm in the middle of the battle right now, are you not scared at all because Natsuki is there? Looking at that familiar face, Byakuya Kuchiki was a little lost in thought at this moment. When Feijun was with him back then, why didn't he look like this? Gradually, he finally made up his mind. Pull out the Zanpakuto from your waist, and walk in the direction of Natsuki and Ichimaru Jin. Upon seeing Kyoraku Shunsui, subconsciously reached out and called out, "Hey, Captain Kuchiki." Pity, the pace of the former did not stop at all. Kyoraku Shunsui suddenly felt a headache and sighed. "Really? We clearly agreed to watch it together. Now that you have all made a move, if I don't make a move again, Master Shan will know, and after the matter is over, he will teach me a lesson again." Saying so, Kyoraku Shunsui also pulled out the sword of war. Looking at Aizen and Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni in the distance, they walked over step by step. Chunshui, Jashiro Yukataki met his friend and went. Shaking his head helplessly, he agreed to stand still. As a result, they all shot one by one, and he can't do it, can't he? With helplessness he also followed in the footsteps of Kyoraku Shunsui. Draw your sword out of its sheath and go to support your teacher. Ding. Zanpakuto stands in front of him, after resisting Shinso's attack again. Natsuki's eyes flashed slightly, his body twisted slightly, and he kicked away with a sidekick. Ichimaru Jin blocked the attack with one arm, and laughed. It's useless. I can see your movements clearly. If you want to beat me, you still have a lot to lose. The story is not over. Suddenly, I felt a movement behind me. The corners of his brows were flirtatious, and he wanted to back away, but Natsuki suddenly gripped Shinso's blade tightly. At the same time, a voice sounded, "Scatter it, Senbon Sakura." The sakura flowers suddenly fell with the wind, covering the unavoidable Ichimaru Jin in the west. Puff chi chi. Countless blood spurts from the sakura flower. And at this moment, Natsuki saw this scene. Looking up to where the sound came from, I saw the man wearing the star-leading pliers, the symbol of nobility, and the silver-white windflower yarn neck coin around his neck walking slowly. Gotei 13, Captain of Division 6 Byakuya Kuchiki. Immediately, Natsuki's eyes flickered slightly, and he teased. Hey, isn't this uncle? Why don't you just watch from the sidelines? However, facing Natsuki's teasing, this time, Byakuya Kuchiki's reaction was unexpected. Although his movements froze for a moment, he did not refute the title of Big Uncle, but said coldly. Put Rukia down. In order not to accidentally injure her in the battle. Rukia looked up at her elder brother in confusion, not understanding why the other party began to care about her again. Your attitude has changed. Natsuki looked at Byakuya Kuchiki and joked. Yesterday, I stopped Rukia from robbing the prison, but now I take the initiative to help contain Ichimaru Jin. Do you agree with my identity? Don't be so self-righteous, round tree. Byakuya Kuchiki was at a loss for words, and gave Natsuki a cold snort to indicate that he had replied. But after several battles, Natsuki also found out the character of his uncle, and joked again. You were hit by me, you didn't know what to say, right. Silence. This time Byakuya Kuchiki was silent. He turned his head and stared at the sakura bushes without saying a word. PFF'd. Watching the conversation between the two. At this moment, Rukia suddenly laughed out loud. Maybe she has never seen such a big brother, but more, she is happy for the quietly improved relationship between the two. Joking? Teasing? Let other people try to tease your big brother. I'm afraid it's just a sign of this. Byakuya Kuchiki will let you experience the feeling of being hacked to death on the spot. Boom. In the distance, Sakura burst out a beam of light. At the same time, Ichimaru Jin's joking voice came out of it. Yeah, Captain Kuchiki, why did you get mixed up with the traveler? However, it is not a good habit to sneak attack while fighting me, so I will punish you. The moment the sound fell, the scalps of the people present suddenly went numb, as if a crisis was about to come. But at the moment, a few people have no time to think. Just listen. Ichimaru Jin's voice sounded again, but this time it was much colder. Shoot him, Kamishini no Yari. Boom. For a moment, a ray of light that is difficult to distinguish with the naked eye strikes. Before he knew it, he had easily carried through Byakuya Kuchiki's body. Poof. The moment you feel the sharp knife piercing your body, Byakuya Kuchiki widened her eyes, lowered her head and looked at her heart. Her heart was penetrated.